Do not adjust your radio dial. You are tuned in to the Mark Order Podcast. Join the Mark Order.
Down volume doesn't ever work. It's Wednesday night. You know what that means? Time for the Mark Order Podcast.
Ant, you look like you're in your finest Dwayne Johnson gear.
I'm in a terrorist thing.
Fair enough.
I hope that doesn't get me flagged somewhere else as promoting terrorism. We'll see. I was just telling Ryan and Joe why we're not on Facebook. We'll let everybody else in too. It's not a fucking big deal. But hi everybody. Mark Order Podcast, part of the Shining Wizards Network, and it's a full house tonight.
For most of it, for at least the beginning.
Right now it's full house. So
yeah, call me DJ Tanner.
I guess if you really want to be DJ, she's pushy as shit though. So
well, if the shoe fits, you know.
Guess. So clearly Kate's here.
I am. Hi guys.
Welcome back. It's only been a month and a half.
6 years.
It's been
84 years, like that meme.
1 week since you looked at me.
No.
Well, it is the go home to Christmas, so I didn't want to miss that. And I heard about a very special segment that's going to be on the show. So
yes,
I wasn't going to miss that. Are you kidding me?
So you are correct. And by the way, Ryan's here clearly. He already did one pun song. And then Asian Joe is sitting quietly and patiently. Hi,
you
Joe.
can hear my discontent.
Yeah, it's coming through loud and clear.
Wait, why aren't Ant and Joe on opposite sides of the screen? It's freaking me out. Or no, Ryan's normally in the top left. What's happening?
Right.
Everything's backwards.
I got us.
Okay.
It doesn't matter to me where I sit. I'm here. So, I don't know. Do we have set spots?
It usually goes Ryan, you, me, Joe, I think.
I feel like I'm on the bottom. There you go.
That's what's up.
There you go. We're set.
Power bottom.
Power bottom.
Power bottoms unite.
That's where you generate all the power, from the bottom.
Damn right. Joe and I know what we're doing.
So, Ryan, for those who've maybe been following along, last week, we've been doing the Continental Classic standings before we get into Dynamite because it starts the next week. And we've been doing the sort of standings just to recap where we are starting the week out. And it dawned on Joe, I think it was it last week or the week before, Joe? I can't remember. I think it was last week.
Well, it would have been 2 weeks because Ryan wasn't prepared last week.
That's true. He's a terrible student. So Joe had the bright idea of, at one point in time, we did rap rankings.
It's true.
And this would be the perfect time to bring that back. So Ryan did confirm he did his homework, and we will have some sort of performance of the rankings, but you got to stick around till the second half when we get into this week's start of week 4 of the Continental Classic. So Ryan, you have a little time.
Thank God you're giving me the break because I'm going to use the break to practice.
No pressure, but you do have to compete with brilliant lines such as Nyla Rose, she's a beast. She's coming to the Thanksgiving feast as an ode to Maddie Raps.
Maddie Raps. Juggalo Matt.
Juggalo Matt, that's right.
Or maybe it's Jugga-Ho. I don't know, but it's
Matt's a
something.
Jugga-Ho for sure.
Major
Matt's
ho.
definitely a Jugga-Ho.
Yeah,
Major ho.
no doubt about it.
So, Kate, welcome back. Hope everything's
you.
well. What is on your hat? Is
Oh,
that
it's just a Ruby Soho beanie.
for a minute I thought it said Bubba Ray, and I was like, what?
No, hard pass, would never. But yeah, no, I was walking Daphne and then my hair was a mess. So I was like, guess what's staying on? As I have been sick all week anyway. So my body temperature is just like very
Up and down. Yeah, fun.
So yeah.
Okay. Ruby Soho. Ryan in his usual Phillies.
Ruby Soho.
And everything's good. Everybody's good.
No, I'm miserable, but I'm fine.
Okay. Everybody
is,
is everybody ready for Christmas?
No.
No. What do you have left to do?
I have a little bit of shopping. I have a lot of not wrapping like Ryan's gonna do because he's a legend. I don't want to even pretend. But I've been sick since like last Thursday. So I had all these plans for the weekend and they just got shot to shit. I'm also I'm such a fucking baby when I'm sick. Like I'm just this little ball of illness and self-pity. And I just like won't even, wasn't anything insane. I wasn't throwing up or anything, but just like little sniffles. Kate didn't really have any energy and was just a sad sack. So I just wallowed for like a good 72 hours.
Sounds like a man cold.
It was very much like how boys act. That's where my state was act. I did what did I do? The ROH show on Friday, and I was gassed. Like that took everything I had. I slept all day, watched ROH, and did that show, and I was just out from then till basically Monday. So I missed like this whole weekend, and I had all these plans, but so I have to now compensate on this part of the week. But I don't have kiddos or anything to worry about, so it's a little easier for me.
Well, you have wrapping, you have some shopping.
I do.
Not terrible. You still have time.
I do.
So you're fine. Ryan, you gave a so-so sign.
Well, my shopping is done. I don't really shop much. I have to get out a little bit more money for the nieces and nephews and then go buy a stack of cards to then put that money in to give to the nieces and nephews.
Stack of cards?
Because they've all graduated to cash.
Are they gambling?
No.
You made it sound like it was a deck of cards to me or something. A stack of cards sounds like...
No, like
hey,
you can buy a packet of like 25 Christmas cards. You
don't even get individualized ones?
No.
Coward uncle.
Have you seen a kid open a card on Christmas? They go, money, card.
I pictured you as one of those guys that gets one that's like nephew in cursive font, and then there's a really long poem.
No, what I did last year was I would write. I did this to every one of my nephews, and I got a kick out of it. I wrote to my favorite nephew, and I wrote out all their names, and then I would circle who I was giving the card to.
Well played. Well played.
That is a good one.
No, I mean, I'm glad they all went to cash, and it was beautiful.
How many nieces and nephews are getting cash?
It's gonna end up probably being 9.
9.
Dang.
And what are we giving them? $100 a piece? Come on, Rye.
$2 bills.
Dang.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, make it rain, Ryan.
Are your sisters adopting anyone? Because I will.
So I have to do 6 for Monday, and then the remaining 3 sometime over the next week or 2. Whenever I see Greg's kids.
Oh,
that
guy.
Technically, I'm one of that guy's kids, so I expect a crisp $100 bill in the mail.
I am one of those children.
Might as well round it out to 10.
I'm a girl and my name starts with A. I'm basically one of Greg's kids. Give me money.
Sorry, you're a little old. They're gonna graduate out of it eventually.
The only reason I leaned into that was so hard was because I got a text from Greg that said, "Oh my God, Ryan's rapping tonight." Yes, he is. He is, Greg.
Oh,
Oh, he's in the chat.
Get it.
Ski.
yes, his girls
Good
get his girls are all my nieces and nephews list, so they get it too. So that's too many though. I gotta.
Greg wishes he was one of his daughters. Dang, pony up that money for him.
I listen. Let's be fair here. I give the cards out. I can't confirm whether they actually get the money or not. Greg could have forwarded it all.
I mean, that's not a bad plan.
Invest it.
Not a bad plan.
Put it in some bonds.
Bag of Greg.
What was I gonna say? Okay, so you're in good shape, Ryan. Joe, how are you doing with your preparations?
For the most part, good. All the gift buying and planning and plotting is done. I still need to wrap them. So I still have that process to do this week. And then I was so far ahead for myself that, like, off topic, I went down this weird rabbit hole. Like, I'm going to sign back up for like a weird dating app. So I went back on there just for shits and giggles.
Yeah.
And I remembered why I haven't been on one for 4 years.
I was hoping you were going to fall in love with a girl who was from the big city and maybe home on a holiday, and you were going to remind her what the Christmas spirit was all about.
If only. But no, I realized that for women, it's always like, oh, why are the guy taking selfies in the gym with their shirts off, or with a fish, or with a dead deer? It's like those kind of photos.
Sure.
I've realized now that when I'm looking at all these pictures of girls on there, is all of them are like Snapchat filters. They all have antlers. They all have like bunny ears. They all have some kind of like thing over their face. And this is why I'm not in that pool anymore.
You're like, be a person.
I'm just going to die alone. It's fine.
I don't want to date a wood nymph. Like, just be your regular person.
Be a person.
Antlers. You're not looking for a centaur.
And these are like, people, middle-aged people, not like, my age range is age appropriate for myself. So it's like, people in their
That's what's kind of weird, because you're not, you're not dating like young 20s, which I feel like I didn't know Snapchat was even something I still had until I received a Snapchat from someone the other day, and it was like, hey, remember this? It's like, not really.
I was out last night. You say it's Snapchat. We were out last night. We had to do some errands, and then we ran somewhere for dinner. And we heard somebody say, what?
Some errands? Some Greg errands?
No.
Caught myself.
I know.
And me. I appreciate it.
But I overheard somebody say, yeah, he messages me all the time on Snapchat. I was like, what the fuck are we doing? We're still using Snapchat? That's amazing.
People still use that?
That's also, isn't that just for dick pics at this point?
I don't know. I don't even know if I have it on my phone anymore. I had it at one point, and I didn't even really use it then. No, it's not even on my phone. But I just don't want to give up my name. So that's why I have it.
That's fair. Aunt, how are you on Christmas? Because you got a kiddo. What are the big ticket items?
The weird thing, he doesn't
preparation.
He doesn't really have a big ticket item. Like, he's not like, I want a bike or I want whatever. Like, he just wanted a bunch of like little kind of stuff. So I guess his big stuff is he wanted a couple Nintendo games that we got him. Like, he wanted the new Mario. He wanted one of the Kirby games. So like, that's the big stuff. But he's got a whole bunch of stuff, that we got. And then we're hosting Christmas. So we had to do like a food shop last night for that, but we're not.
It's a Fishes.
No. That's Christmas Eve. My mom does that. But the thing is, we realized like on Christmas Day, like nobody really eats. Like we've done it before where we've made like a shit ton of food, like pasta and meatballs and sausage and all that kind of shit. And like nobody eats. So this year we're doing like hors d'oeuvres all day and like snacks. So we are on our way. We've got a few things left to buy. Like we did big bulk buys at like the BJ's wholesale and whatnot. And now we need a few other things. I have to prepare a couple dishes, but I just need my ingredients before I can prepare it. Yes, Kate?
Do you have pigs in a blanket?
There are pigs in a blanket, but we also have Lil Smokies. So
What's a little smoky?
it's just a cocktail, Frank, but you can do them like in a crock pot, and it's basically just a bottle of barbecue sauce, whatever type, and then a jar of grape jelly. You let it simmer and sit on the crock pot all day. It sounds weird, but they're fucking great. They're so
they're
good.
Pigs out of blankets.
They're out of blankets, but we do have pigs in blankets.
That's good.
So we have both. I think right now we have the Little Smokies. We've got some of those like
Sounds like a rapper. Little smoky.
Yeah, it does. And they're spelled little. So it works. We have those. We have like a bunch of like little quiches and like puff pastry type things. Little spanakoppitas.
Spin a cup of this dick.
Oh my God, Ryan.
I had to do the callback.
Well, I enjoyed it. It's okay. What else do we have? Gina's making sausage balls, which is basically like ground sausage and like Bisquick and cheese, like, and they're delicious.
You like her sausage and her balls. Yam bags.
Children.
Got any yam bags over there?
And then for the kids, like Gina has like, we have like mozzarella sticks. Well, I say for the kids, but I'm gonna eat some mozzarella sticks, mac and cheese bites, toasted raviolis. So all sorts of stuff, and then charcuterie and whatnot. So, and then I am preparing for dessert. So I don't know if you guys know this. Friendly's used to make a Jubilee roll. And that was like came over Christmas. It's just like a ice cream log, and it's vanilla, and then in the center is chocolate, and on top there's just like 2 strips of like, I guess, fudge with some like almonds, on top, and then like a little strawberry sort of ice cream or something ribbon. And they discontinued it in 2021. And it was literally like the only thing we looked for on Christmas Eve for my mom to have. And like certain years she wouldn't have it, and we would be like, fucking holidays ruined. No Jubilee roll. They actually discontinued it in 2021. I am home making it for Christmas.
Ambitious, but I like it.
So I'm gonna I have to make the ice cream.
Making it.
And then I gotta what?
I'd be home making it.
You would be home making it.
If you didn't know the recipe, you'd have to call someone on the phone.
Get on the phone. I don't know.
Oh no, I don't know how to make it.
I don't know how to make it.
Oh no.
But yeah, so I gotta make that. But yeah, we're in pretty good shape. All the shopping's done. I finished up stuff with Anthony to shop for today, and we're in good shape. So
it sounds like preparation wise, you got preparation A through G nailed down.
It's just H.
Yeah, it's preparation H
is what I'm.
So on the whole, you just need preparation H.
That's it.
That's right. On the whole, I need preparation H, and especially for making the chocolate ass cream for the Jubilee roll. So
we're so mature.
Yeah. So, oh fuck, I had to. Oh yeah. So, just for anybody maybe wondering, because I was telling Kate these guys, so we're not on Facebook because I got flagged on Facebook. So,
what happened?
Right-wing conspiracies.
Yeah.
Was it somebody revising history?
I did share
on my Facebook that got banned. It was his.
I did, but I shared a link to some revisionist history blog that shall remain.
Doesn't affect any of my socials. Gotta be on you.
Mm-hmm.
So no, I had a picture from a movie, and it was Trading Places, It was Dan Aykroyd as Santa Claus, and he had a gun. And he was like downtrodden, and they thought it was violent and possibly suicidal. So they flagged my account and restricted me. And I was telling them, they sent me a thing like, hey, buddy, we're here for you. We care about you. Here's ways you can get some help. I'm like, it is clearly not me. That is Dan Aykroyd from Trading Places.
Maybe thought
And Ghostbusters.
you were
and
Dan
other films.
Aykroyd 20 years ago or something, you know?
Well, either way, they said you can appeal it. And so I was like, well, that's certainly something I'd like to do.
Yeah.
Because this is really all I use Facebook for. So I went to appeal it, and there's no way to click a button to appeal. So until January 8th, I can't start phone calls, join phone calls, create meetings, or do any of that stuff. So
Because
that means
Dan Aykroyd is Santa.
as Santa with a handgun. I'll tell you what, though, X has no problem with it.
No.
Elon, he's
Gonna
like,
give it to you.
anything goes. So yeah, so we're not on Facebook until January 8th, and then we'll be back. But until then, I guess find us on YouTube. So that's why we're not on Facebook. Yes, Kate.
I have an unrelated question.
Sure.
Does baby A, because this picture came up on my phone the other day, know that his girlfriend's returned to AEW programming? Not to
He
throw us
does.
into wrestling world too soon, but
He does, and we're certainly going to get there. So yes, I did make him aware of that, and he got super excited. I showed him actually tonight at dinner, and he was like, it was their clip on social, and then it showed like the match card for Saturday, and I was like, hey, look at this, and he's like, who is that? And I was like, just watch, man. He's like, who is it? I was like, just watch. He's like, is it Thunder Rosa? Like, Thunder Rosa. And he immediately turned around and was like, hey, Mom, Thunder Rosa. So he's very excited that she's
I
back.
believe it. I believe it. He was infatuated with her.
He still is.
Aren't we all?
It's true.
He still is. So yeah, he's very excited. So yeah. So that's what's going on. That's why we're not on Facebook. And why don't we get thrust into the world of wrestling? This seems like a good spot. So Kate, you had mentioned you saw Final Battle 2023.
Yes.
Now we don't do we really don't do any Ring of Honor here on this show just because we don't have the goddamn time. But
And let me explain. We cover we put as much time and attention into Ring of Honor as Tony Khan does.
It's getting better.
well, listen,
My joke still holds.
I bring it up because one, we're just going to cover the results, and if anybody wants to say anything, I personally didn't get to see the show. I had something to do on Friday, and then I planned to watch it, and then haven't watched it yet because here's this for corporate synergy. I've been preparing, even though I think I was told not to prepare. I'm preparing for ROH Revelry because I'm going to be a guest
yeah.
on this episode with Milwaukee Tom and William Mercier Jr.
That
So,
rules.
we're covering episode. Maybe I don't know if I should be saying what we're covering. I think they said it though, so I don't care. TV.
It's a Mark Order podcast exclusive. You can reveal
Sure.
it here.
They did say I was a big money guest, which is right.
You are AntMoney, and you're not big anymore. You've lost too much weight to be big.
It's my bank account that's big, brother. I know, Joe. Some guys, right? I saw you shaking your head. You're like, Jesus Christ, man.
No, I was
Funny
thinking
joke.
I was thinking of a joke in my head about capital gains, but
Like these capital gains. Ooh.
yeah, you have to tax those now.
Oh man.
That was the other picture that came up when we went to what was it, Capital Collision? The picture
yeah.
of you and your brother and Matt all in the same color
Hold on.
schemes.
I didn't have the same shirt.
Him and his what?
His brother.
My brother.
You guys say brother on purpose?
No.
Yeah, I did it as a silly.
Okay, sure, Kate.
I do. I say
I don't-
brother.
I
Brother
thought-
and mutter.
Well, his mother was a mutter.
Hello, mutter.
His father was a
Hello,
mutter.
sister. Hello.
Anyway, We're covering on RH Revelry. We're covering TV. So it's a retrospective. It's a look back. We're covering TV from this week. Ring of Honor episode 118, which is an Adam Cole retrospective, which is hilarious because they're just all fucking babies.
Oh my god, yeah, those.
Yeah, they're children. And then we are also covering Final Battle 2013, which happened on December 14th of 2013. And again, very hilarious. The first match of that night was Matt Hardy, who at the time was the self-proclaimed icon Matt Hardy.
Okay.
That was his 12th match of his 12-match contract. And he fought Adam Page. And note, I did not say Hangman Adam Page, because he was not Hangman. He came out in some sort of trucker hat, and he was just a baby. Just like the Young Bucks on that show, just like Kevin Steen was on that show, as well as Tommaso Ciampa. It is hilarious looking back and seeing what children they were.
Also really makes you realize how much NXT Black and Gold was ROH with a production budget. Like the same thing that AEW kind of did to New Japan. Yep. NXT Black and Gold really kind of did to that era of ROH. It's incredible though, like how many present day top of card talents in both major companies came through there. Like it's wild.
There were also a few moments in there. I'm like, for this to be happening, and I don't want to talk about it now because I want to talk about it on the show, and you should really go listen to ROH Revelry when it comes out to hear my takes on it. But there were certainly some things that I saw that I was like, seems a little late to be doing some of the things that they're doing. It just, what I mean by that is in 2013, there were 3 spots that I was just like, this seems like it's past the time period to be doing that. But you'll have to tune in and hear what I'm talking about. You could probably, if you know the card, you can probably pick out, like Kyle K. Sparks is probably like, oh yeah, I know what he's talking about. But like other people, they're probably like, I don't know. So
you're pointing out Kyle K. Sparks knowing what you're talking about as he's in the chat explaining what Hangman does a year later after the storyline you're talking about. Like, also, hi Kyle, hi Gordon, hi JPJ, hi Scott. I think I got them all.
Okay. So we're gonna cover Ring of Honor real quick, and then you can sign it. If anybody wants to call out anything specific, I have yet to watch it. I plan to watch it. I heard it was quite good, and I've seen the results anyway. So, 0 Hour was Taya Valkyrie defeating Jasmine Allure. The Von Erichs defeated the Outrunners. Very cool to see the Von Erichs getting some time. In the survival of the fittest qualifier, Bounty Hunter Brian Keith defeated Jack Cartwheel, so he got into the match later in the night. Daniel Garcia defeated Blake Christian. And then we get into the card. So we had the AAA Mega Campeonato. Hio Del Vikingo defeated Black Taurus to retain the title. Taurus, excuse me. Sorry.
It's okay. I just wanted to put some stink on there.
The Ring of Honor World 6-Man Championship, Brian Cage, Bishop Con, and To Leona defeated Shane Haste, Bad Dude Tito, and Kosei Fujita to retain the titles. Ethan Page defeated Tony Nese in an I Quit match. No surprise there. Nyla Rose defeated Vert Vixen. In the Ring of Honor World Television Championship Survival of the Fittest match, Kyle Fletcher outlasts Dalton Castle, Commander, Lee Moriarty, Lee Johnson, and Brian Keith to win the vacated title. That's the first gold for the Don Callis family. So that is maybe something to note. Wheeler Yuta defeated Tom Lawler to retain the Ring of Honor Pure Championship. Keith Lee defeated Shane Taylor in a meat-on-meat hoss fight. In the fight to honor Jay Briscoe, Mark Briscoe and FTR defeated Bryan Danielson, Jon Moxley, and Claudio Castagnoli. Well, actually, it was a double count out. My apologies. double count out. I think technically, I don't know.
Dusty finished into Danielson taking the pin from Mark.
Right. In the fight without honor. Wait, what the fuck am I talking about? Sorry.
That match restarted as a fight without honor.
Yes. Sorry. That's why I'm getting all messed up. Proving ground match. Eddie Kingston defeated Anthony Henry. So Anthony Henry doesn't get any future title shot. And then in the Ring of Honor Women's World Championship, Athena defeated Billy Starks to retain the title. And I'd like to at least just ask, I mean, of course, you guys can talk about whatever you want here, but I would at least like to ask the thing that I feel like I've seen most people talking about, and it's Athena retaining against Billy Starks. And the reason that I bring this up is because I feel like a lot of people are out there saying, why did we leave it on Athena? Because we want to see Athena move on to sort of do more stuff in AEW, not because they don't like Athena or she's been doing bad. Athena's been one of the bright spots.
The bright spot, yeah.
Right. So it just, to you guys who saw it, did it feel like we're missing the time to pull the trigger and get this off of Athena?
For me, yes. Also just partly because the story with Billy Starks and Athena had been told beat by beat so perfectly that this felt like the natural conclusion and the best way to put a bow on it. Now, since then, they've announced, and I'm sure you'll cover this in news and notes, but there's going to be an ROH TV women's title too, which is pretty cool. So maybe there's something that they want to set up there where Billy has that instead. But it did feel like the time to pull the trigger here. Two things that came to mind are, one, Billy Starks looked great. She looks ready. She is 19 and just graduated high school like 5 months ago. Like maybe they just want to make sure she's ready for something that big. And two, I think we're seeing a lot of really good progress in the AEW women's division. And with as dominant as Athena's been, I wonder if there's a hesitation of, we don't want to call her up when we don't necessarily have somewhere to put her or like a slot to immediately make things work. Because we saw 2 women's matches on Collision, which is great. And we're seeing a lot more story and development outside the title pictures, which is great. But when somebody's been as dominant and as well built and as on demand as she has, does it make more sense for her to keep the title and maybe have some sporadic appearances until you can build her up for a title picture? My assumption is in the AEW women's division picture right now is you'll probably have Julia forming this badass House of Hearts thing and eventually dropping to Willow because there's that natural story there. Athena and Willow obviously have a great history for the title. Athena has now. You could very easily put Athena into the world title picture against a Mariah May if that's what the handoff from Toni Storm is going to be or something like that. But with limited screen time and that roster really just like finally getting some love and attention and some footing here, maybe they just want to make sure that she has the right thing to step into when they do pull the title off of her. So those were the only 2 things I thought, but it does feel ill-fitting of the story, especially because the note that they ended on was Athena like accepted Billy Starks as her minion now. Like she proved that, but we kind of already told that chapter of the story already,
right,
with Billy Starks being on her side of things. That's kind of how we got here. So does very much feel like a retread. I don't know if there was like an audible called last minute or something. Athena was also in her hometown. Thunder Rosa's back. That could be a really fun Texas versus Texas challenger kind of thing you could do at some point. But to me, it did feel like a misstep to the story they were telling, but I don't think it's a misstep that it's like everything feels so ruined now. So we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Like it's not a disservice to anybody, but it feels to me like when, they were sort of getting ready to wrap up Ring of Honor before TK bought it. And it was like, Kate, we were there. We were like, this is Willow's time to take the title. And they didn't do it. Like it seemed very much from what I've seen, a great match, but it just seems like a lot of the chatters like, man, pull the trigger, give it to Billy Starks. I hear what you're saying. And that is, you bring up Thunder Rosa, like in that story, but that's the other thing I think that we have to keep in mind too, is that, there are a lot of, as we like to say here, spoons in the porridge in the women's division with some of these stories, but also Thunder Rosa's just coming back into an already crowded picture. They brought in Mariah May, who we still have yet to see, but we're gearing up for an opening with her. Britt Baker's nowhere to be found. So she's, I think, banged up a little bit, or maybe helping with Adam Cole. So at some point she'll be back. At some point Jamie Hayter will be back. They're not going to go to Ring of Honor, so there are limited spots. And I think, we've sort of talked about it before, like what can we do for the women? And people thought maybe we were going to get a women's show. We didn't get a women's show. But like, there's all this stuff like you would think they could do, like maybe a YouTube series, if they ever get a new deal anywhere. Maybe put it on a streamer, right? Produce a show and just put it on a streamer. Like, I know it's not ideal, right? You don't want women having less time on television, and I don't. But if you need to give more place to tell a story, then give it its own show somewhere and get more of these women involved in stories and pull them through to TV. At least then you can figure out a way to move some of these stories on and off screen and keep people sort of moving through the system. I mean, I don't know what the perfect answer is, but
I really thought it would have been floating tag titles before we got an ROH women's TV title. Like, that just feels like such a logical thing, especially because we do have some tag stories going on right now. So having them, I've said float across ROH and AEW. Sean thought of the idea of having them float across New Japan Strong because they're in a similar boat where they do a lot of leasing of talent for New Japan Strong, and they have some really cool stuff with women from CMLL and from Stardom and all these places, like having floating ones that can expand the brands, especially because there does seem to be some sort of relationship with Strong now based on the Continental title picture, right? That would be a cool way to go about it. And to me, that's the move I would have made. Not mad about a TV title, though. I think that'll open up some openings for women on the main roster who aren't doing a ton and can come back and give young and growing talent in the ROH picture some reps. I think that could be a really fun opening to alleviate some of that.
Yeah, I mean, it does give more opportunity to the women when you sort of throw any sort of belt in. So, we'll have to see how that plays out. Now for, Joe or Ryan, I don't know who may have seen the show. Was there anything in particular? I guess, Joe, you saw the show?
I have not.
Have not. Ryan, did you see the show?
I saw the show and I was giving you eyes, man. I was giving you eyes.
Okay. Well, that's
we skipped one of the biggest parts.
What?
The return of Scorpio Sky.
Well, that's true. And I was sort of throwing to you to say, do you want to speak about anything that you liked from the show? So why don't you talk a little bit about the return of Scorp?
Scorpio Sky came out, and I'm pretty sure his song also starts with Reach for the Sky. So they really got to do something about that, because though it's a different voice and different music, it is a little off-putting at first. Here, Reach for the Sky, you're like, who gets this? Anyway, he came out to save Ethan Page, who was being, Tony Nese was being a dastardly character and cheating with his attorney. And Scorpio came, and Scorpio didn't attack Nese. He just took out Mark Sterling and let Ethan Page win his match. And that was a great match. You thought they were going to do the Mankind Rock spot where Ethan Page had his hands handcuffed behind his back and Tony Nese had the chair, but Ethan Page got free. It was great. That match is must watch, the whole thing. You see like JPJ in the chat saying feels like it was time to make Billy a superstar. Kate kind of covered this. It did feel like that. I will say Kate got there at the end, so she kind of took it where I think they don't have something for Athena up on the main roster yet, and you're not going to bring her up to do nothing after the run. She said you'd be better off just letting her be awesome in ROH than sit around doing nothing on the main. So that's something they have to fix in general. But as of right now, we'll see. And maybe Billy makes a run for the TV. I don't want her to win it though. I think there's other people. It would spread stories out if she didn't win it and someone else won the TV.
Okay. Well, like I said, it seemed like a fun show, And if had I not had somewhere to be on Friday, I definitely would have watched it. These Ring of Honor pay-per-views they put on tend to be good shows. Like they tend to have good wrestling and tell good stories throughout the show. So I wasn't doubting it, but it does always surprise me how many people are like, I'm not going to watch it. Like, I'm not going to waste my time. And it's just surprising because they've had a decent track record, at least with their pay-per-views, of them being entertaining shows. They're not just
Now they're cheap.
Yeah, this one was included in Honor Club too, so that's I think very helpful. This one had some build going into it. I get why people have been frustrated in the past because ROH just has really felt like AEW Dark on steroids, but they did a much better job over the past 6 weeks of clarifying some things. I don't like what they did with the Pure title, just throwing it back on Wheeler as a default. But I do feel like Wheeler's best matches are his Pure matches. The ones going into this were great. This match, though, I gotta say, like, there was no part of me that was like, this guy can beat Tom Lawler. Like, no part of me. Because Tom Lawler's just had probably 40 pounds of size on him and was right there with him technically. Just a phenomenal job by him in that. But the believability there.
Say it was filthy.
Filthy is like the perfect word for him, though. Like, legit. Because he is. Like, because he's technical, but he's nasty. So it's just really, really good. I think the other outstanding things were Brian Keith's performance. Having him win on the 0 hour to earn the 6-man spot was really interesting. My guess is he's going to get the graphic. I think maybe they want to use him in AEW, and that's the only reason they didn't put him on there. But he did great. That match in particular was a lot of fun. That survival of the fittest match. I didn't think Kyle Fletcher was going to win it, but he's fantastic. He did a Generico Brainbuster spot on the top turnbuckle that was super, super fun. The I Quit match, I don't like I Quit matches, but that one was really old school and well done. And Scorpio Sky coming back kind of compensated for a lot of the overbooking, in my opinion. But I thought it was really, really fun. And I say it every week on Thursdays, like Nigel and Caprice, they are just butter to listen to. I kept putting over on Twitter, like, Ian kept saying Athena's reign was like Bryan Danielson's, Nigel McGuinness's, Samoa Joe's. I'm like, that is what we want for women's wrestling commentary. Like, we don't need JR being like, she's an athletically built gal. Like, to put Athena's reign in that same category is like, that's how you do it. Like, Ian's just fantastic. As is Caprice. They added so much too. So really, really fun. Way too dense of a card because they were trying to keep the main event from competing with Rampage, I think. And I'm not the biggest lucha gal in the world, but that Taurus Vikingo match was awesome because Taurus beat the hell out of Vikingo. So it was really, 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 really fun. And of course, I love TMDK. So that 6-man was really fun. Bad Dude Tito especially showed out. I love Shane Hayes. Fujita is like a future New Japan all-star. My God, he's unbelievable. So really, really fun and well-sequenced card considering it was like 14 matches or some shit.
I do want to say something. Kate was pointing out the announcing, and then she pointed out the lucha match. There was a point in the match where Vikingo was trying to do like a jump to the outside, and he botched it once. And then he ran back and he botched it again. But the second time, Ian did something that was so clever. He goes, look, he's trying to fake him out this time. So that when he went back and did it a third time, it seemed like, only the one was a botch. The other was a fake out. So I give Ian credit for trying to put logic behind it. I also wanted to say the what was it called? The iron whatever match? What was it?
The survival of the fittest match?
Survival of the fittest match. They did that really well. First of all, Dalton Castle was the most over wrestler in that entire match, in that entire night, even over Brian Keith, who was in his home. Like, Dalton Castle got such a pop. They need to do more with him. But his story is him losing. So him losing was actually okay. They did a smart thing of having Lee Moriarty eliminate him and Brian Keith so to keep Lee Moriarty hot and developing. He didn't eventually win, but it was just a nice way to like try to give the rub to a couple different people.
Yeah, really well produced. Really well agented.
And Ryan, you brought up that spot with Vikingo. I wanted to ask about it because I did see that making its way around, the web. And I wanted to ask, I mean, you try it once, it doesn't happen. You go for it again, it doesn't happen. In your opinion, you have to bail on it at that point, right? Like, move on. It looked awful.
It did look stupid. I don't think lucha enthusiasts give a shit about that stuff. And if that's your honest to God takeaway from the match, you're an idiot. Like, that's how I feel. Like, if you watch that match and that's what you're fixated on, like, that match is one of the coolest lucha matches I've ever seen because it felt like such a different story than the rest of it. So no, it makes no psychological sense. No, I don't think you should go for it a third time. But I don't think, because of the style of lucha being, what is it that Chris Hero said? The marriage of pageantry and acrobatics. Like, I don't think lucha fans sit there and are like, oh, it's not believable. Like, 90% of the shit they do isn't believable in lucha stuff. It's not believable that human beings can pull off half the shit that they do. So I think the mountain out of a molehill that got made out of that spot is just like putting a magnifying glass over the one thing that wasn't incredible about it. Like, it's a very different type of match than a lot of lucha matches that I've seen, and that there was a real story of how much Vikingo was getting punished for all of his acrobatic attempts. And I just thought it was really cool because we don't see, other than Penta, like on American television, I don't feel like we see a whole lot of like hard hitting luchadors the same way. Like, he bases like Gringo Loco or whoever. Like, very, very, very interesting match. And Vikingo, I think, is one of the, for me, for the styles that I like of things, like one of the more kind of psychologically sound luchadors at putting things together. So an unfortunate spot, but an awesome match.
Well, it is on the Honor Club. If you have Honor Club and didn't get to see it, that's going to be me. I got to go watch it after I do Ring of Honor Revelry. I think it's going to drop Saturday, but we're recording tomorrow, so that'll be a lot of fun.
Hell yeah.
All right, let's move on real quick, because if you weren't watching Ring of Honor Revelry, if you weren't watching fucking Final Battle, maybe you were watching Rampage because it was on and it's 10 o'clock time slot. So we had Orange Cassidy and the Von Erichs defeat Daddy Magic, Jake Hager, and Angelo Parker. Interesting, the Von Erichs were able to be in two places on the same night. I guess they had travel accommodations between the two shows. That's all.
They did. They Bugs Bunnied it.
That's right. Let's see. We had Kyle Fletcher and Powerhouse Hobbs defeat Hunter Gray and Paul Titan. Also interesting. Oh,
who was
I'm
it?
sorry. It was
Fletcher and
Powerhouse
Hobbs.
Hobbs.
Also interesting, though, that Kyle Fletcher was able to find time to tag as well as focus on the match he had at Final Battle.
He's just a gifted kid.
He is. Anna Jay defeated Red Velvet, and Action Andretti and Top Flight defeated Vikingo, Commander, and Penta. Also, great to see Vikingo able to have his travel accommodations taken care of to get him between his two shows. So
that 6-man was so much fun. That was a ridiculous trios match.
It is just weird, though. I don't know how they can pre-tape this and know what your card's going to be for the pay-per-view and then have them on both shows. It's just weird to me.
It is, to do so with 3 different talents is like a little much.
Like one,
especially when neither of them are trios champions. Like, so
correct.
You really don't have to do that.
Correct. I mean, it's like we've seen it before, like one guy, right? Like, and that makes, that would make some of the sheets as like a haha, like, oh, he magically was between 2 states in a matter of hours.
Rooted it, right? Like,
yeah.
Isn't that the...
Yeah. But 3 seemed like a little excessive to me. Just, again, sort of wish like
in a 1-hour show on the one side.
Right. Let's just try to fake it. You know what I mean? Like pretend like they're not happening, you know, taped with days between them. That's all
Or
I'm saying.
at least have fun with it. Like give them all mustaches on one show and then not on the other.
Right.
That would be fun.
Right. Exactly. So
Or
yeah, I
see
don't
them
know.
running to the ring like they're trying to get there in a
Yeah.
hurry.
Right.
Oh my god,
Right.
I'm late.
Oh God. I don't know if anybody. Kate, you mentioned the 6-man. That was a lot of fun. Ryan or Joe, anything you guys want to call out about this? No. Okay. We don't need to dig into it. Just covering it to cover it, and then we had the Winners Coming edition of Collision on Saturday night. We'll cover this a little bit because this does go into our Continental Classic, right? Because we had Blue League matches that took place. So we had Claudio Castagnoli versus Andrade El Idolo in a Continental Classic Blue match. And Claudio wins by pinfall to get 3 points. So now he'll have 6. Andrade will have 9. We have Abaddon versus Jasmine Allure. Abaddon defeats Allure, and then post-match lights go out. Julia Hart's in the ring. Sky Blue comes down. Looks like her and Abaddon are on the same side, but then Sky Blue turns and starts to attack Abaddon, which gets Thunder Rosa to come out, you know, from the announce table and help out Abaddon. So they do make mention it's the first time that Thunder Rosa's been in a ring on television since October of 2022. So well over a year at this point that we've seen Thunder Rosa in a ring. And they did make it official. She's going to get back in the ring for the first time in well over a year, Saturday night. So she's going to sneak in right before the wire and get at least one match in 2023. We also had Orange Cassidy versus Brian Keith for an international championship. Orange Cassidy defeated Brian Keith via pinfall to retain. Chris Stat and Willow Nightingale versus Mercedes Martinez and Diamante in a Texas street fight. Chris Statlander and Willow Nightingale defeated Mercedes and Diamante. That match was a lot of fun. We'll sort of get into some of these after the results. Brian Cage defeats Kyer Wright. Eddie Kingston versus Daniel Garcia in a Continental Classic Blue League match. There were stakes here because if Kingston lost, he was mathematically defeated. At this point, Garcia is. But Eddie Kingston does win by pinfall to get 3 points. So now he's got 6. Garcia is still looking for a win here. And then we get into the main event of the evening. It's Bryan Danielson versus Brody King. A 6 versus 6 in our final Continental Blue League match. And Bryan Danielson wins by pinfall to get 3 points. So he'll have 9. And Brody King is, you know, they're sort of tied with the rest of the field now. So it's a close grouping in the Blue League. But that's the end of the show. So a couple things I wanted to at least bring up to the group. One, it is really nice to know that people are listening. People within AEW Creative are listening to what we're saying. Us here specifically, because we've said it. I feel like we've said it how many weeks now? Like, what the fuck is happening with Sky Blue? Is she heel? Is she face? She's supposed to be heel, but she's wearing Scooby-Doo gear. Like, can we make a fucking decision? Looks like they made a decision, right? Like, it looks like she's going to be a heel, hopefully. But I was sort of happy to see her go one way. I don't know how you guys felt about that.
Yeah, it's about time. It feels like every angle involving Julia Hart takes forever to get to. But it is good to see. She has a very different look about her just in general from in this segment. Like she just didn't look as she didn't look like bright-eyed and bushy-tailed baby face, and she also didn't look like that turned evil. She just looked kind of like a little bit more refreshed of an image, which was good. But I also just, this was a near perfect episode of television. Like I really, really, really thought this collision was very strong. And for the C2 stuff, and I'm glad that we're unwrapping it
Mm.
here because I love how different both sides of the brackets feel. Like Blue League, it feels like it's anybody's game right now, points wise.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, we found out tonight we have this triple threat, but it felt like it's going to be Swerve Mox, it's going to be Swerve Mox, and I think it's still going to be Swerve Mox. But like the difference in what they've done with both sides of the bracket, I feel like is a really, really refreshing approach. And that's how I think round robin tournaments are done best. Like you want that in the blocks of the G1 too, where each block doesn't feel like they're doing the same thing 4 times over. So I just applaud them on that because the first time out of the gate, like to nail that aspect of it is pretty damn cool. They're doing a great job.
Yeah, they've been doing a really good job with it. The other thing too is I thought the Orange Cassidy Brian Keith match was awesome. Really nice showing for Brian Keith on television. And then that street fight was fucking awesome. I love it when they let the women do the same stuff that they let the guys do because there shouldn't be a difference. The tacks were great. The whole I lost my words, ring gear sort of attire that they had with the briefcase coming out to look like Reservoir Dogs was really fantastic. And you know, it was a hell of a street fight. I don't know. I feel like we've seen these matches with women, but none of them have been that great. And this felt like the next sort of really good one. So I thought, you know, it was pretty good showing from the women in this match.
Well, I felt like the one with Bunny and Penelope was great. It just had that really unfortunate spot where Willow missed the table, so that kind of overshadowed it. But yes, and to see 2 women's matches on Collision was really refreshing.
Yeah, and advancing stories, you know,
Big
like
time.
it's not just a thrown together match. So yeah, and then like you said, Kate, the Continental Classic matches were just, you know, good. And I think something I saw, we don't talk a ton of ratings here because who the fuck cares, but I believe that I did see something that said they fared fairly well on a Saturday night, especially competing with football at this time of year. So you know, it's weird to see sort of where their ebb and flow is on a Saturday night, especially because it's like sometimes there are sports on and they do shit, and then other times there are sports on and they fare fairly well. So it's just weird to see like what they've tried with different formulas and like match cards, and it seems like they sort of keep putting out these high quality cards, and some weeks it hits, some weeks it doesn't. It's just an odd time. I guess it's Saturday night. It's hard to
And the
figure.
women's matches drew really well too. So it's almost like if you tell consistent stories,
That's right.
people want to tune in to see them.
That is right. Joe or Ryan, anything you want to call out here?
I think we've discovered that the mist takes a really long time to work. Because if you remember, they dragged Julia's on forever too. And then she kind of came out of nowhere when we thought it was over. So my whole discovery is that we think the mist is like this long, short-term turnaround, but really you get a short-term reaction where they get a little bit darker, and then we think nothing, and then they go evil. So we got to remember that if it's going to work, it takes its time.
It's a slow burn.
It's a very slow burn.
Slow burn. Anybody surprised at the fact that Claudio beat Andrade, or
No, not the way they're doing this tournament. They're being really good about spreading out wins and losses, as we'll see tonight. Like they're trying to give everyone, except for the guys who aren't getting any wins, they're trying to give everyone a little bit of a shine. I do want to acknowledge that people should start acknowledging how great Diamante is. I'm just going to always.
No, you're right. Absolutely. She
lead the
rules.
fan club.
She rules. Joe, anything you want to add?
Other than I was really worried that Willow was going to concuss herself on that powerbomb spot on the table. It looked like they kind of missed the table a little bit, but hopefully nothing happened out of that.
Yeah, I'm with you there. But I mean, I'll say this. this street fight definitely was. It seemed more dangerous. What was the other street fight we got, Joe? We were talking about it with the men where they had like the hot dog cart.
Oh, the Nashville street fight, the Nashville, whatever it was.
Yeah, something like that. The Kansas City street fight. It was just like, okay, we're gonna have parking cones and hot dog vendor. I don't know. It just seemed really weird. I guess Texas is more dangerous.
That's where they have all the death matches.
That's right.
That's true. That's true. Well, it was quite a weekend of action in the AEW realm, and it carried into tonight because tonight was Holiday Bash for Dynamite. So we've been going for about an hour. This is a pretty good point. I think we should take a pause. Ryan has to rehearse because tonight was the new start for the Continental Classic. It's week 4 of the Continental Classic. We're going to cover where we stand before the night starts. Ryan has promised to perform something, whether it be a rap, whether it be a butt rock ballad, who knows? Ryan is going to perform
You might
something.
not even know.
I don't know if he does. He just has the standings. That's all that we know. So if you're watching, stay tuned because it should be interesting. I shit you not, none of us know what Ryan has planned. We all just know that he has the rankings in his hands. So steady prepared. Okay. So we're gonna step aside, grab a drink. Ryan's gonna rehearse, but you guys, why don't you hear some words from the other shows that are part of the wonderful Shining Wizards Network?
Thank each and every one of you for tuning in every Monday night to listen to The Shining Wizards. If you'd like to continue to support us outside of listening, we've got a few ways for you to do that. If you shop at Amazon, go over to amazon.shiningwizards.com, do your shopping as usual, and when you make your purchase, a little bit of that purchase price will go back to support the show. If you like to wear t-shirts, merch.shiningwizards.com will take you to our Pro Wrestling Tees store, where we've got over a dozen great designs from over 11 years of professional wrestling podcasting. You can become a Patreon supporter at patreon.com/wizardspodcast, where each and every week we call out your name as one of our show producers, and the more you support us, the more things that you're entitled to receive, and believe me, they are fantastic. If you can't support us monetarily, if you don't shop at Amazon, that's absolutely fine. Continue to listen to us wherever you listen to us on the World Wide Web, and make sure you like, rate, review, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Doesn't cost you anything, helps us out, and we can continue to bring you the love fest that is The Shining Wizards.
What's up, folks? It's your boy, the Impact Player, Mr. Philly Ray, inviting all of you to check out the Turnbuckle Throwbacks Wrestling Podcast. Join us as we cover all things current in the world of pro wrestling, as well as paying homage to the old school, the Squared Circle. So listen in and find out why we are the recognized symbol of excellence in sports entertainment broadcasting. Find us on all social media platforms and anywhere you get your podcast from. And as always, we are the proudest members of the Shining Wizards Network and Rant Entertainment Media.
Are you tired of being lied to every day by the mainstream media?
Do you want to know what's really going on in the world?
Do you want to make up your own mind about things and not be told what to think or say?
Then listen to Inconclusive Breakdown, a weekly anti-PC look at the world of entertainment and current events, brought to you without censorship or filters.
You can find us everywhere you listen to podcasts, BitChute, and on ShiningWizardsNetwork.com.
And also, we're a proud member of the Shining Wizards Network.
Got 30 minutes to kill?
Come check out 30 Screams or Less, where we review a horror movie in 30 minutes or less. We cover new movies and old ones too.
We'll give our honest thoughts on the movie, good or shit, as well as a rating of each one that we watch.
New episodes weekly, available on the Shining Wizards Network and wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.
I'm Steve.
And I'm Corey.
Come check us out at 30 Screams or Less.
G'day guys, my name is Thomas, one half of the Broadcast Podcast. With our podcast, we go back and watch wrestling events from WWE, WWF, WCW, ECW, AEW, and many other wrestling promotions. You can check us out on Twitter at The Broadcast, that's TheBrokast, and you can also download all episodes on Apple Podcast, Castbox, Castro, and many other podcast apps.
you like your music heavy, then check out Radioactive Metal on the Shining Wizards Network. For over 60 years now, Radio longest running podcast. Over the years, we've interviewed some legendary metal acts, had some awesome discussions, and cranked a hell of a lot of tunes. So join your cool Uncle Snowy and his co-host Aaron for the audio mosh pit that is Radioactive Metal here on the Shining Wizards Network.
Well, the action is underway.
What's up, everyone? When on the Shining Wizards Network, be sure to check out Wrestling Night in Canada. If we're not recording another kick-ass podcast,
Or playing in punk bands.
Or recording kick-ass heavy metal albums.
then we're sitting back, we're grabbing a couple brews, and going over everything to do in the world of pro wrestling.
Because we're from Winnipeg, you idiots.
The Mark Order Podcast is the only show you need if you're looking for dedicated coverage of everything AEW on the Shining Wizards Network. Join us live on YouTube every Wednesday night at 10:15 p.m. Eastern after Dynamite to chat along with the show. If you can't join us live, listen to us on your favorite podcast platform. Follow us on all social channels at MarkOrderPod and use the hashtag #JoinTheMarkOrder, because if you don't find us,
we will find you.
I'm Kevin Rowe.
I'm Al Day.
And we're a couple of down under pounders that co-host Rogue Day Dots, an action figure collecting podcast where we talk about, well, just about anything that tickles our fancy at any given moment.
We're grumpy old men, and sometimes people get on our nerves. And when you get on our nerves, guess what? You get off the lawn.
Get off my lawn, asshole! We also go on a little bit of a mission. We go back and we're grading every wrestling figure line that's out there. I'm talking LJNs. I'm talking Jacks. I'm talking Hasbros. Who doesn't like a little Hulkaplex? It's a Gorilla Brain Wrestling podcast production found on the Shining Wizards Network.
I'm Duke Bags.
Kevin Rowe.
And together we are the co-hosts of Your Duke and Road. If you want to hear about some terrible wrestling shows, we got you covered.
Well, we talk about good ones, too.
We're currently talking about the death of WCW.
I know what we're fucking talking about. Sometimes we get guest spots, like from the Taskmaster. I like to listen to the Year of Duke and Rope podcast. They're funny guys. I like when they talk about the Nards plows. I like Nards plows. That's a good move. And I like the Dungeon of Doom. You know, sometimes I call my butt the Dungeon of Doom. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, Oklahoma.
Let me tell you a little bit about my favorite wrestling podcast. All right. It's a podcast from two men, Duke Bags, Kevin Rowe. They talk about professional wrestling. It's a man's sport, all right? And who better to talk about a man's sport than Duke Bags? Oklahoma.
And once in a while, Vince Russo stops by.
Oh, you piece of shit! If you're not listening to the Year of Duke and Rope podcast in the back with the boys, you piece of shit, I don't know what you're doing. It's, you gotta slide one in there. If you're a man, you're talking about something only a man can do. You're talking about sliding one in there. Bro, take the time to slide one in there. All right, bro, you piece of shit, slide one in there. A Gorilla Brain Wrestling podcast production that you can find on the Shining Wizards Network.
All right, we're all sort of back here on the Mark Order Podcast, part of the Shining Wizards Network. And we are going to have Ryan come in momentarily. Ryan, if you're there, don't come in just yet. But before we get into Ryan, who will get into the rankings for the Continental Classic, I do want to just take care of two pieces of business. One, Follow us on our socials at Mark Order Pod, X, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. Follow us all over the place at Mark Order Pod. Make sure you especially go over to our YouTube and subscribe there if you could. It helps us greatly. We are trying to get up to 500. That's sort of our next benchmark. Hi, Jesse Ozog. What perfect timing. Good to see you. All of us here are waving, even Ryan, who's not on camera. So make sure you follow us on YouTube, subscribe, like, rate, review, all that kind of stuff. We're trying to get to 500 subscriptions. That's our next benchmark.
It's actually YouTube.
Oh, YouTube?
I don't mean to be like, picking nits or anything, but I believe it's YouTube.
We'll go over to the YouTube
There.
and subscribe, because don't forget, we can't say exactly what the prize is because somebody will dispute it, but 500 gets something very special.
Doc Bueller, I'm so glad you're here because you did hear correct. Ryan is about to rap.
Well, Doc, we say Ryan's about to rap, but we don't really know. Okay, so let's reset for all the people who just joined, because we did have a bunch of people join us. Clearly, this is something people have been waiting for. So we've been covering the rankings for the Continental Classic each week before we get to Dynamite, because this is the start of the new week. So we have the standings and all the points from our week 4 results. I think I said we were starting week 4. My bad. Week 4 ended on Saturday night, so we started week 5 today. Ryan told us he would prepare and perform something for us tonight here to get us through the week 4 results and point rankings, or maybe just the point rankings. So I'd like to welcome, without further ado, Ryan back onto the screen. Welcome.
I can only assume this is going to be in the style of
Thank
Big
you.
Willie style.
Well,
Wild,
I mean,
Wild West.
yeah, exactly. Closer to Wild Wild West. Not closer, it is. When I looked for inspiration, I said to myself, what is the greatest song of our age? Wild Wild West.
Okay.
So, a couple caveats that I need to do. I have all the order.
Okay.
There's 2 things. One, I don't say the points because didn't fit in my flow.
Okay.
I am going name order within the song. So as I go down, that's their ranking. The song did not allow for a natural break into, and now we're going to the blue division. So just know when I start with Andrade, we're into the blue division.
I'm hearing a lot of excuses. I don't know what you
There's
guys
no
are
excuse,
hearing,
trust me.
but
It sounds
This
like
whole-
he only did half of the assignment.
No,
does.
you're I got us into the goddamn chorus. So no, I didn't do half of the assignment.
Oh, okay. And you're not mentioning the points. It feels
So then, well, you know what, Kate? Let's reserve judgment until after he actually completes the task.
It's like a pure match. We're the judges.
And then what we'll do is we will fill in all the gaps. I can't call them anything else because Ryan clearly told us there are going to be a bunch of gaps. We'll fill those in after the wrap.
Just the points. But
There's
you'll
a lot
know
of
the order.
You'll
know the order.
Ryan, on your cue, because we don't have music that is license free. So I'm assuming a cappella?
Yes, and one last caveat. If anyone has ever watched the Wild Wild West video, no, this is a good caveat. You'll notice that he likes to use his hands and move around a lot.
Oh, God.
I feel in the spirit I must do the same. So be prepared.
Okay. Well, without further ado, I'd like to
should I be full screen?
Over to I'm taking care of that. Don't you worry. I'll take care of it.
When you're ready. I'm ready.
Ryan,
let me take one last sip.
Take your
I'm a diva.
Ryan's taking his final sip of water before he gets into it.
We're going to grade him after this, right? We're going to rate, give him a letter grade or 1 out of 5.
Yes, absolutely.
Either the best or worst thing I've ever done. I'm prepared.
Yes. All right, Ryan, take it away, please.
Wiki wow, wild Mox, John Moxley, Desperado, Uses a Rough Rider. No, you don't want nada. None of this. 6-gun in this. We thought Swerve was running this. Pulled up his shoulder. Look, it's like I told you. Any Switchblade that's in distress. Be out of that mess when he beats third rest. Roughneck. So go check with Rushinella File. Lethal and Briscoe got 2 holes on the side. Swallow your pride. Don't make Andrade react. You don't want to see your face where Danielson's foot be at. With Brody King from the start of this run of the game. Eddie Kingston taming the blues. So remember the name. Who you gonna call? Not maybe Claudio Castagnoli. Who you gonna call? Won't be Daniel G. If you have a roof with any one of us, break out before you get bum rushed at the Continental Classic. When I roll into the Continental Classic. When I stroll into the Continental Classic. When I bounce into the Continental Classic. We're going straight through the Continental Classic. Continental Classic, Continental Classic. We're going straight through the Continental Classic. Continental Classic. Yeah.
I only regret that we didn't start it 4 minutes earlier. So when the people that were watching the Fightful show came over to this, it wasn't like perfectly timed at the beginning of it.
Well,
I'm going to pass it to Kate first because I have to gather my thoughts.
The enthusiasm was off the charts. I give you
by the way,
that.
I'm treating this like American Idol, so be
Okay. I appreciate the performance. Obviously, the costuming is an 11 out of 10. Incredible synergy with your background there. Here's where it's a no for me, dog. I don't feel like I know who's leading the Continental Classic really at the end of it. I think the
Jon
missing
Moxley
points. Jon Moxley, yeah, but the other side of the bracket is so open that I don't feel like I got like a good
Andrade,
sense.
Danielson, Brody King, Eddie Kingston, Claudio, and Daniel. I went in order.
I'm sorry.
Like
you had your turn, Ryan. You have to take this criticism.
Yeah, when I'm thinking about who I'm giving the golden ticket to, I feel like it was a really crucial element to the wrap that we have the points in there because it just felt like you were more running through the roster of who was participating. So while I applaud your enthusiasm and while it was probably better than anything I ever wrapped when we were doing the traditional rankings wraps, I was also freestyling because I have a gift. I applaud you for that, but it's a no for me, dog. I'm sorry. I can't send you to Hollywood based off of, I just feel like I needed the points in there, dog. Dog.
Okay. Joe, would you like to go next?
Sure. Thank you for offering your words. We appreciate them for entertainment value. And I also second the fact that I kind of got a little bit lost in what we were doing since there was no mention of points. It sounded like, diarrhea of the mouth, just spewing words out. I appreciate the cadence, a little pitchy here and there, but you tried, and that's all you can ask for. And you took that brave step to try. And I think if you go home, keep practicing, refine your skills, I think next year you can come back on and try again, or next week. And maybe then we can pass it on.
Okay. That's all valid. I'll say this, Ryan. I'm there with everybody else on the enthusiasm. You wanted it. But I have to also say it just seemed like we were shoehorning names in with no clear defining lines of where we are in the gold or the blue. If you're not really following, you don't really know. And also it seemed like you were just trying to get through it too quick. You weren't, trying to feel the flow and really like the passion behind it. It just seemed like you were just trying to get through it. And
so real quick,
okay.
I'm gonna fake like I'm crying, but there's a serious comment here. I was debating going slower, but if it was really, really bad, I didn't want to torture everyone.
Well, I think it would have helped if you slowed down a little bit, to be honest, Ryan. All right, so we got to make a vote. So it's going to be a yes or no. Kate?
It's a no for me, dog. Sorry.
Okay, no from Kate. Joe?
Unfortunately, it's a no at this time.
Okay, Joe's a no, and yeah, it's gonna be a no from me too, Ryan. So we'll try again, and it's been a pleasure. Wow.
I think next time we should all have our chairs turned around like it's The Voice, and that way we don't even have to go through this commentary. It'll just be like, if nobody turned their chairs, we don't want them on our team, So
now that we know how this works, I 100%, and we started this way too late. Had we known this from week 1, we would have done this from week 1. But I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna have to set up a layout, Kate, where we're gonna put the 3 of us on bottom, and we'll put Ryan on top.
Yeah,
and it'll be like a true judging panel. Well, because that was a little confusing, why don't we just cover off real quick on what happened? I think it's probably for the best.
I think it's important we do. Yeah.
So just to catch everyone up, week 4 ended Saturday. In the Gold League, Roosh defeated Jay Lethal, Jay White defeated Mark Briscoe, and John Moxley defeated Swerve Strickland. That all happened last Wednesday. And then and then Wednesday, we also had Andrade defeat Brody King. We also had Claudio Castagnoli defeat Andrade in the Blue League. Eddie Kingston defeated Daniel Garcia, and Bryan Danielson defeated Brody King. So in the Gold League, the point standing before the start of the night were John Moxley with 12, Swerve and Jay White with 9, Roosh with 6, and Jay Lethal and Mark Briscoe with 0. In the Blue League, Andrade and Bryan Danielson both have 9 points. Brody King, Eddie, and Claudio have 6 points. And Daniel Garcia has no points. Oh, well, I don't have any sort of bells or jingling prepared, but Santa's here.
Ho, 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 ho. How are you all doing?
Well, we're doing pretty good now, Santa, because that Wild Wild West parody rap is over.
It was amazing, right? The greatest thing I've ever heard.
We passed on
Well,
it.
that's because you guys are all on the naughty list.
Oh, okay. Well, Santa,
I know what that ant is.
Oh, snap. You know it. Santa, are you joining us for the remainder?
We'll see. This beard can be quite hot.
Well, all right. So, Santa, we'll get into Dynamite, but just so everybody knows, this week's final set of round-robin matches in the Gold League, John Moxley versus Jay White, Swerve versus Roosh, Mark Briscoe versus Jay Lethal. That all happened tonight. We'll cover it. And then in the Blue League on Saturday, we're going to get Danielson versus Castagnoli, Andrade versus Kingston, and Brody King versus Danny Garcia. And there are a lot of ways that both leagues can go. So why don't we dig right into the Holiday Bash edition of Dynamite? And all the Continental Classic matches tonight were part of the Tournament for Tots initiative where AEW and Jazzware has partnered to give like $1 million away of toys to Toys for Tots this year. So good causes all the way around. But we open up Dynamite with.
I do have to jump because I have a very, very early interview in the morning. But I will also just say I was eating tater tots while the Tournament for Tots graphic came up, and that was a weird feeling. But have fun talking Dynamite. I appreciate you guys. If I didn't have to be up in a very short amount of time, I would stick around. But I wanted to come on here before our go home to Christmas, and obviously for the wrap of the century. So I appreciate you fellas, and I'm sure we'll talk offline, but I hope everybody has a wonderful holiday that's tuned in, and I appreciate you all very, very much. You guys are the greatest gifts a gal could ask for, and also Ryan's fine, so I appreciate you guys.
Oh, cool.
Have fun with your cold this Christmas.
Oh, boy. Thanks, Kate. Enjoy your holiday. We'll see you next week.
Bye, Jesse Ozog, and bye, to the crew here.
I'm in agreement here with 1LT photo. Boo. Bye, Kate. All right, gang. So the first match of the night was Roosh with 6 points versus Swerve Strickland with 9 points. And as we get to the end of this match, we do have Shane Strickland win by pinfall with the Swerve Stomp to earn 3 more points. He now has 12 and a berth in the Gold League Block Finals against Jon Moxley. Now, we know that at this point because he's got the high point total. And Moxley also has a high point total. So we know that he's at least got there, depending on what happens in Moxley's match later in the night. So they did make mention, and I thought commentary did a great job with this. They did tell us that if Moxley wins or draws against Jay White in the main event, then the finals will be singles between Mox and Swerve. If Jay White wins, then he will make the Gold League Block Final a 3-way match. And then they hype up the Blue League with a reel and they go to break. So, Santa, because I don't want to waste you here on our feed, why don't you tell us what did you think of this opening match?
This was quite a hard-hitting affair, and Santa doesn't usually like violence. He likes his people to love and share candy canes. That being said, I'd like to point out that we thought Roosh was going to be running this. And last week he had pulled up his shoulder, like Ryan told you. But it was good. Not Roosh. Swerve. See, I'm all confused. The violence is killing Santa. But I liked the match overall. It was very good. We knew Roosh wouldn't win the tournament. Swerve had to go on. I thought it was excellent. I liked that they started off Dynamite with a match. I mean, Swerve was walking out. Now, it's very hot, so I'm going to go check my list. Ryan will be back.
Thanks, Santa. Thanks for stopping by. Joe, what'd you think about the opener?
Yeah, I think it met my expectations of what I thought we were going to get from the two of them. I kind of like seeing the injuries and how they built up on these guys. Like, Swerve had a banged up shoulder with the tape, and Roosh had like a banged up leg and everything else. So it kind of shows the wear and tear that people are having week after week after these matches with top competition. And I think for the most part, everyone kind of banged up, maybe except Jay White. He might be the healthiest of some of the last ones remaining. But yeah, and I also was watching the match. I kind of forget how much submission moves Swerve uses, because I'm thinking about all his impact moves, but he does a lot of submission holds, and that's just something that kind of stuck out with me as I watched the match.
Yeah, I mean, it is something you sort of forget about with all the offense that Swerve has. He can wrestle a submission style too. But yeah, these guys went really hard. And I did like the story where Roosh's leg was bothering him. In commentary, Taz was specifically saying, hey, Swerve should really zero in on that leg now because he's showing his weakness, and that's the hard thing about this tournament. And they did a good job with that too. I thought on commentary was basically saying, hey, that's what's tough about a round robin tournament is you get hurt in week 1. You don't have time to rest or to heal up. You just got to keep moving. So it's been a great storylines throughout the tournament. I think the result went the way it had to go. And it sets up intrigue for the main event tonight. So we'll keep moving forward so we can get to that main event and talk about it. But we had Chris Jericho cut a promo backstage. So we'll talk about it in news and notes, but clearly I think everybody knows that Kenny Omega went to the hospital last Thursday, and they found out he had diverticulitis and complications from that, which were pretty bad. And he is pretty much out indefinitely now. So Chris Jericho had to come on to sort of address it. Now, he did talk about Kenny's hospitalization with diverticulitis and the news that he'll be out of action indefinitely. And he said that affects the Golden Jets title opportunity. And while they decide what they're going to do, in the meantime, the most important thing is Kenny's health and that everybody wishes him well and we're thinking about him sending him positive thoughts. Now, I'll say this, guys, it's, it's not something to fool around about. Diverticulitis is pretty serious, and from what I read, and we'll cover some more of it in news and notes, it sounded like Kenny really just thought it was anything but serious. Like, he thought, I think, that it was just something in his diet that was, bothering his stomach, or that he was working out too hard, and he had the match with Ethan Page and maybe thought he tweaked something. So, like, that's crazy that this could have been much worse. And again, we'll sort of touch on it in news and notes. But what I was a little sort of, I guess, disappointed about was the fact that I really wanted them to make a definitive statement on what is going to happen now at World's End. I just don't think now that they know what they're going to do at World's End, because you either have to find somebody to pair with Jericho, but I don't think you want to do that because that sort of throws away this whole Golden Jets thing. And we're sort of dealing with this now with the Ring of Honor tag titles and MJF and Adam Cole. I was sort of hoping that they would announce that somebody else would be filling in the spot, but they haven't. So they've only got a little more than a week to sort of figure out what they're going to do. I don't want those titles to stay off the pay-per-view. So I guess, Joe, I'll throw it to you here first. Were you looking for the same thing as I was, like some sort of definitive statement?
Maybe not tonight. I think tonight the focus was on the Kenny message, and you didn't want to kind of muddy up that, sincere message with a storyline message. I think I could see Starks and Big Bill come out Saturday during Collision and gloat and say that, they'll have a match and, make some heel promo. And then I think some challengers will come out, and that will set up a match for the following Saturday.
Any idea who you'd like to see slide into that match?
It's tough because I feel like a lot of tag teams, like the top other tag teams you think of, are kind of tied up with other things. Like, I feel like FTR is kind of tied up with things, but I don't know.
Well, I hear what you're saying, and you're right. It does become tough too, because even if you were going to say we're going to pivot and do the Bucks or something, the Bucks are not here, right? And that's part of sort of story too. I mean, I'm assuming they had planned on this time off over the holidays, but also the story is they're taking time away from wrestling. I think we're also anticipating a switch in character of some sort, whether they're going to go super heel or authority driven or whatever. So you're not going to have the Young Bucks. I don't know if you'd want to do FTR and have them, because I don't think you'd switch titles, right? Unless that was the plan with Jericho and Kenny. I don't think you put in FTR and they lose, so I think it also depends on sort of what your plans are for those titles. Was it to get them off Big Bill and Ricky? It's weird, but yeah, I just don't know who you could slide into this spot. Ryan, welcome back. What'd you think about the message? Were you looking for a definitive statement?
No, I think they're still figuring out what is actually going on with Kenny. I mean, they know what's going on, but you don't know the timetable, the complete prognosis, and I think you want to. How you adjust your story will depend on how long you think he'll be out, and they'll probably get that in the couple coming weeks, because usually that's when that stuff happens. It's crazy. It was diverticulitis. I mean, that's very serious if it gets let go. I read Brock Lesnar's book, and he had gotten it, and he was like in the middle of nowhere, and he thought it was going to kill him. So, and I had a couple coworkers who had it. Like, it's very serious. So, kind of explains his the way he was last week. How he was. Everybody said he looked disinterested. He just wasn't there. Yeah, I wouldn't be interested either if I was suffering from that. So, the fact that he even showed up is impressive. Like you said, he thought it was a hernia and something he ate, like a weird combination, which to me goes to tell you, if you ever have to think of two separate things to explain the symptoms you're having at once, maybe it's not those things. Yeah. But other than that, I mean, I didn't expect an answer. I expect one in the coming weeks when they figure out, is he going to be out months,
like how many months really is he going to be out? Is it only going to be 1 or is it going to be like 8? Like once you
Right.
figure that out, you'll be able to decide what you want to do.
Well, it's definitely not going to be by the pay-per-view. So Ryan, in that case, would you all right, it's sort of a two-part question. Would you prefer they stick with Jericho and a different tag partner? And if that's the route you'd like to go, who would that partner be? Or would you like to see it be a different tag team? And who would you put in that spot?
I think I would just do a whole new tag team. I wouldn't even have Jericho.
So who would you slide in?
I would slide in Bray Phoenix is still hurt. So you can't slide him in.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just trying to think of who's healthy and who's been built up enough. That's a good question.
It's a weird spot too, because like you can even like I think we could even say like, oh, it would rule probably like Top Flight, but what claim do they have to titles? You know what I mean? Like
yeah. I mean, in this case, I think you could get away with just throwing anyone in because it's the reason is so well established. It's not like it's not like it's not story like it's not like they're trying to make up for a bad story. Like everyone knows what happened here. Like you're not just this isn't poor planning that took them to this place that now they're throwing any team in there. I'm just trying to think there's a couple like there's teams out there. I'm just trying to think who they would be okay having the loss. You're not going to use FTR, you're not going to use House of Black.
And again, we're also assuming that Ricky and Big Bill are going to retain.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't even know what the plan was for the Golden Jets. Were they going to take the titles off Ricky and Big Bill? Were they going to lose? Like how is that going to play out? So I think it also depends on that. What was the long-term decision, right? Are you going to take the belts off them to Kenny and Chris? Because if that's the plan and you're still going to pull the trigger, then who are you going to put those titles on? It has to be somebody, sort of who can fill in what Jericho and Kenny were going to do. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. They have a few shows between the pay-per-view and now. So they'll have Saturday night this week. They'll have Collision. Rampage is going to be taped, but I don't think you're going to do anything on Rampage because that'll get out there. And then you'll have Dynamite next week. But I mean, you have to do something on television. You can't just be like on social, hey, it's going to be this team. I think you have to do it on television.
I have an idea.
What's that?
Well, if they just do a placeholder match of, so the belts are on the card, but they want it to be, a team that they can pin and just, buy some more time with the belts on Ricky and Big Bill, you can always just throw a pairing of Danhausen and, Trent or Danhausen and Hook or Danhausen and whoever, just to fill the card out.
Could you do the Guns?
You could actually.
I thought wasn't one of them hurt or are they not hurt? I can't remember.
No, it's Juice that's hurt.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think it's Juice. Well, it's gonna be interesting to see what they do. So we have a few more episodes of television for them to figure it out. But on this episode, our next match was Jay Lethal versus Mark Briscoe in a Continental Classic Gold League match. And these were two guys who have no points. So they're fighting for sort of pride here. It was interesting. Commentary was talking a little bit about Mark Briscoe and him basically saying that, I think they said the sort of quote was, he's not taking the tournament seriously because this is his first year as a singles wrestler. Which when you think about it is true because most of his career, he's been a tag expert. Although, in old Ring of Honor, he did have, a number of singles matches. I watched one in my preparation for ROH Revelry that I'm taping tomorrow. But getting through this match, Mark Briscoe does win by pinfall with the J Driller. So he gets 3 points. He's got a total of 3. He will not be shut out. Post match, him and Jay shake hands. They do have a history. They did mention their history during the match in the pre-match. So that sort of ends the tournament for those guys. And then we get a hype reel for MJF getting inducted to the National Jewish Sports Hall of Fame. Before we go to break, we're going to mention that in news and notes as well quickly. But guys, what did you think about Ryan? What did you think about this match for a match that really had no stakes but pride? What'd you think?
I mean, because if you looked on their scores, it was like they had 2 holes in their side of the scoreboard.
I get what you're doing. It's not helping.
It is. I like that the match was great. I mean, again, this has been kind of a reawakening for people with Lethal. I think they were really down on him, and they're seeing he can wrestle. The one person who didn't have a story in this entire tournament to me was Mark Briscoe. I couldn't figure out what they were doing with him, and they explained it tonight, which was he's never wrestled singles before. Of course, he's going to struggle. Like, this isn't his thing, and I love that because now it makes sense that he would barely get 3 points. Like, he has to rebuild himself, even if he wrestled singles when he first started or whatever. 97% of his career has been as a tag team, so he has to completely change his mindset and how he trains and how he functions. So I love that. So it took one line of commentary to completely change my entire feeling on how his tournament went. Jay Lethal's was always good because they're kind of trying to get him away from, I think, Jeff Jarrett. So I liked he needed to lose. He needed to come out having lost all of them, so that he could. So he has to take a good hard look in the mirror and say, "Hey, this is what am I doing? I'm losing. I shouldn't be shut out. I'm too good to be shut out, and I've consistently lost since I teamed up with Double J. I need to move on." So the match itself was really good, but I was counting on Kate being here, so I don't have as many spots written down. But I'm always the story guy anyway, and I like now. Apparently, one LT photo saying that they talked about that in the scrum at ROH. I'm gonna be honest. I did not stay up till 3 a.m. to watch the scrum for ROH. So,
well, what's also interesting, Ryan, you were saying that the line about from commentary about him being a singles wrestler for the first time, was able to help sort of switch your mindset on it. The other interesting thing, and then we'll get, Joe, your thoughts here. The other interesting thing too was they did make mention on commentary about Jay Lethal, sort of finding himself again as a singles wrestler, because they said at one point something to the effect of, like, early on in this tournament, it seemed like he was looking around for help, and now he's not. He's realizing he can sort of go out there and be on his own. So does play into that story of maybe him distancing himself from Jeff Jarrett and that whole group. But Joe, what did you think of the match and everything that went on around it?
I agree with that last part you were talking about, where it is really a redemption arc for Lethal, as far as this has showed him that he can only count on himself, and that you hit rock bottom, and then you have to kind of it's on you to pull yourself up out of it. So, and I think even seeing him, with the handshake at the end, kind of gives you a little bit of insight into where he's going next with his character. But from a match standpoint, two guys who know each other very well. I think a chunk of the first part of the match was just like some hard hitting chops, like echoing chops. I thought they laid him in really well for those. And marked one spot where Briscoe set up the chair and jumped off the chair to hit Lethal on the outside, and then ended up, grabbing the fan's hat as he rolled into the barricade. That's awful trusting of that folding chair, because I know if I would have jumped on that chair, it would have shared over my knee.
Sure.
But yeah, I think other than that, I kind of understood the Briscoe story of, after a couple of weeks, I kind of figured out, oh yeah, I forget he's a single competitor. So, of course he's going to struggle. Like, I'm glad they finally brought that up.
Well, it was a fantastic match for a couple guys fighting for pride. Good to see Mark get a win. And we'll see what the next chapter is for Jay Lethal and Mark Briscoe as they're, out of this tournament now. But as they come back from commercial, we begin sort of our MJF grouping of segments. We get a hype reel from Wardlow and, his mission against MJF and Retribution. But we also get Samoa Joe making his entrance to the ring and gets on the mic. And he says that he's here seeking answers once again. And even though Roddy isn't the brightest bulb in the box, he's got a great point. And he points out that we did get footage of the Devil's men beating the hell out of everybody that they've attacked, except for MJF. And that's why he wants Max to come down and answer a few questions right now. So the champ makes his way to the ring, and he asks Joe if he's saying he's the devil. And Joe says that he is. And he reminds Samoa Joe of his promise to protect him from all kinds of attacks and even declaring him Joe's property. So it's pretty clear that he cares about his property as much as he does his diet. Oh, snap. But since they're throwing accusations around, MJF has some of his own, and he's confused. Why is he waiting for World's End when he can end Joe's world right now? And there's some shoving, but the Devil's men attack before MJF can give Samoa Joe sort of his beating, and they fight them off, but more goons come in and surround the ring, and that's when the lights go out, and the Devil appears on the big screen, and the writing comes up, and it says, "Where do you go? Who can you trust? Will you accept a challenge for the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Championship next week? Are you a hero, Max?" And the lights come back up, and Max asks Joe. Max says to Joe that he knows things aren't great between them, but he did make a promise to his friend, and he needs his help one more time. And Joe accepts the challenge and says the best way to beat the Devil is to put hands on his boys. And then we move on. What's interesting here, guys, is we see more goons than we've seen before, because the guys come down and storm the ring, and there's like 8 or 9 of them, and then we get the 4, I think, sort of standard goon squad come out of the crowd and surround the ring, and then we get this challenge again, and we never saw it happen the first time, so I'm sort of hoping we get to see this next week. Again, I don't know what shape MJF's shoulder's in, so I'm hoping we get it. I hope there's no shenanigans here, but we'll see. But for the most part, Joe, what did you think about Asian Joe, that is? What did you think about Samoa Joe, or Joey Samoa, and MJF here?
Well, before I talk about that, I wanted to go back to the Wardlow promo backstage. I don't know if I'm reading too much into it, but I found it interesting that he used a lot of "we" in his promo. A lot of when you're talking about MJF, it's a lot of we. And he's just kind of the outside guy who's been, threatening Max, and I still think he's probably a part of the squad somehow. But I think it's natural to have Joe and MJF have that confrontation around this whodunit mystery, where you start being paranoid and start pointing fingers at everyone. I'm still trying to figure out what's a red herring and what's not, and I'm curious to see how they do this next Wednesday. A couple days before their title match, if it's going to be someone just beaten down ahead of time shenanigans, or someone take out Joe, and that's how MJF can help retain. But just a lot of intrigue, and I'm still wondering why they haven't. The Devil really hadn't. I think the Devil talked once before in one of those video things, and ever since then they kind of moved away from having the Devil talk.
Yeah, I know he laughed once and maybe said a couple words one other time, but that was really it. Ryan, what do you think here? I mean, you can go back to Wardlow; it's up to you. But what do you think about all of this? Do you have an idea of who it might be? Do you still think it's Jack Perry?
I'm kind of starting to lean away from him. They haven't dropped. I don't think the real glass or whatever. I don't think those are hints for him. And the more I think about just how not great for the story that would be, so I'm starting to lean further and further away from him. I will say, and I don't think it's them, but I will say this is very reminiscent of the early days of the Dark Order where they used to have like a ton of minions, but you only had like 4 actual members of the Dark Order.
Right.
That's kind of interesting to me, like just like an early day thing. Seems I don't think it's a bad obvious. I think it'd be a good obvious, but it seems pretty obvious that Wardlow must be one of them because one of them's just so big. Accusing Samoa Joe being the devil just doesn't make any sense because we've seen the devil, we've seen Samoa Joe. There's a size difference there.
Notable.
Yeah, I mean MJF wants to make fat jokes, which I'm fine with. I don't actually have problems with that. As a fat guy, I've given my blessing. But there is a notable size difference. So MJF, you're not fooling anyone. I think but they're pushing very hard to make it seem like it's MJF so that it won't be MJF. To me, that's the closest thing I could say. Is that they're pushing so hard one way that they're very obviously not going to go that, which I'm fine with. But that seems to be the thing. And I am laughing at this. Joe is a refrigerator.
It's very true. He is a large gentleman.
He is.
Yeah. It's I was going to say weird, but it's not weird. I mean, I don't mind them continuing to throw people's names into the mix to sort of throw you off any sort of scent. I think once we see who it is, it's going to become obvious, like, duh, of course. But I just don't know how they're going to go. You could make claims that it's Roddy. You could make claims that it's Adam Cole. There's a number of people. We know who one isn't. We'll talk about it in news and notes briefly. But we've definitely checked one off the list, and now who knows? So we'll move on because we're going to see MJF again in a little bit. But right now, there is a backstage interview with the best friends and the stunning Renee Paquette. And she asked him about increased momentum into 2024. And Rocky Romero says he spent 329 days as the CMLL World Historic Welterweight champion, and he's looking for a new international opportunity. So Orange Cassidy jumps in and gives him a title shot on Friday, and everybody leaves. Rocky's a little confused about what just happened, but we do know that Friday night we'll get Rocky Romero versus Orange Cassidy in an international title match, which should be a lot of fun. And we did find out it was out there, but they did say on TV that Chucky T is injured right now. So he's the only member of the best friends sort of not around at the moment. Not sure if you guys have anything you want to add about this, but just a title match to look forward to on Friday. So we move forward and we see Toni Storm join commentary for the next match, which is a Women's World Championship #1 contenders match between Riho and Saraya. And the winner will get a title shot against timeless Toni Storm at World's End. Cutting to the end of this, Riho wins by pinfall with double knees, so she becomes the #1 contender. And post-match, Toni Storm confronts Riho in the ring. Riho is able to unload on her with some forearms. She gets the tiger feint kick. And then Mariah May comes in to make the save and smash her in the back of the head with the title belt. Toni Storm looks a little confused at that, but Luther carries her off and Mariah's left sort of standing in the ring. And then we move on to our next thing. We'll hold there for a moment. But gang, none of this excites me. I'm not going to lie. So I'm going to let you guys talk about this however you want. I'll throw to you first, Asian Joe, because I don't know. I just don't have a preference.
I don't have a lot of notes on this other than the obvious of Tony just overshadowing everything about this match. It's with her on commentary. Just from the very start, calling Taz a human duplex machine. I mean, great line.
Stealing that, by the way.
The match itself, it was a little clunky to start. I felt like there was some missed timing between the two. They did pick up, which was nice. It picked up a little bit toward the end there. And my only other note was, Riho, for as small as she is, she does a really nice Northern Lights suplex. So she has that going for her.
That's cool.
It's Riho.
None of it is believable to me. None of it. Absolutely zero. Toni Storm should have no problem in this match a week from Saturday. Ryan, what do you think?
I think the pro wrestling in general is fairly unbelievable if you're really going to put a lot of logic on it, so that doesn't bother me. I thought it was a fun match. I think Riho gets the crowd behind her. She's always cheered loudly. She is consistently over for someone who comes and goes. My biggest problem has always been she just, after she loses to Toni Storm, which she will lose, after she loses, she'll go away for 6 months, 8 months, a year. And that just does no one any good. Now, if she stays, I'm all in. Toni Storm's amazing. Toni Storm is carrying the main roster women. Well, her and Julia Hart are carrying the main roster women division on their back right now. She's just so good. And like Joe said, the human duplex machine was hilarious. Her facial expressions, and I think her match with Riho is going to be a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to it.
Are we going to get a Mariah May Riho match on Wednesday?
I hope not.
I actually think that'd be a good first match for Mariah May coming from Japan.
Yeah,
I don't think you. Okay, so here in my mind, I don't want to see Mariah May make her debut and lose, and I don't think Riho loses a match going into the championship match, because I think they've sort of talked up Mariah May as this, great women's wrestler who spent time in Japan and has traveled the world. I just don't think you do somebody a service to do that and come in and have them lose. Sort of the same thing with like when Taya Valkyrie came in. They talked her up real big. It was a surprise. And then like she lost her first 4 matches. It doesn't help. So
let me ask you this. They've been really good about doing clean finishes lately, which I love. I'm a big fan of the clean finish. However, what if in this one instance they have Toni Storm quote unquote accidentally cost Mariah May the match?
I still don't like it. I'd rather see Mariah May in a legitimate first match against somebody get a win. That's me.
Yeah, I'll give you that. The win is I listen. I feel differently about Riho, but I will agree with you 100% there. The win is. I was trying to think of a way to make it work because I'm with you. I don't like the idea that her very first match is a loss.
And I don't want it to be a schmozzy loss. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I don't
know.
If you feel
I don't love that idea. I was just trying to make it work because I'm with you. I don't think her first match should be a loss.
Joe, do you feel differently about that?
Well, the only reason, if they do have a match on Wednesday, that non-clean finish is the only thing I can think of that you can do to protect Mariah May is to have Toni either caution the match or Toni, get her DQ by hitting Riho. Not the greatest way of doing it because you want her to be booked strong coming out the gate. But I don't know but like her interjecting herself in this, by hitting her with a belt, I think that's what made me think that maybe they would do a match Wednesday.
Well, we'll see. Nothing's been announced for that on Wednesday, but we'll see. We do know we're gonna get Riho versus Timeless Toni Storm at World's End. So we'll see what happens. But after this, we do get told that Tony Schiavone has to read a statement from Christian Cage on the stage. And he said, I have to read this word for word. And Cage basically says that after his career-defining victory over Adam Copeland, He's taking Nick Wayne on a well-deserved vacation, and he'll be back Saturday, where he will address Adam and any lingering questions about what happened in Montreal. And he expects nothing less than a hero's welcome upon his return. And then they go to break. I don't know if there's too much to say here, guys, but I just would love to say that I really love the fact that even in a written letter, Christian Cage sort of bullied Shivani into reading it word for word, and then still berated the crowd through text and stuff like that. I just thought it was a lot of fun.
I
But
felt
I
like
think
a missed opportunity, though.
yeah, how so?
I really was hoping for like a badly photoshopped photo of them too, like at a beach resort or something with him in a turtleneck on a beach.
Maybe Saturday when he shows up, maybe you could say we went on a trip. Who knows? But yeah, I thought that was a lot of fun. And then we get another backstage segment that we should talk about here, because we see MJF and Samoa Joe sort of talking backstage, and then they sort of go their separate ways. And Joe goes into his locker room, and Max moves on, but he finds a mask, a black mask, on the floor outside of the Mogul Embassy's dressing room. And he knocks on the door, and Prince Nana answers, so he gets him up against the wall and throttles him. And that's when Swerve rolls up, and Max says they've got a lot of history most people don't know about, making long car rides together. And now Swerve's all grown up and beating some of the biggest stars that this company has to offer. But the reason they've not crossed paths is because Swerve isn't on his level. And Strickland says it's funny he brings up those car rides because it was magical, and Max was the best chauffeur he ever had. He brings up the William Regal email, failing at a tryout and turning into a whiny little bitch. And he's right, there are levels to this. And MJF does tryouts, but Swerve signs contracts. And he better be MJF better be careful how he talks to him, how Swerve talks to him, because the last guy that stepped up, he hung him from the neck on pay-per-view in front of 13,000 people. I'm sorry, Swerve said it to MJF. I think I said that the other way. My apologies.
I got it.
And Friedman says it's really funny that he keeps talking about Hangman Page, and he needs to show the world champion some respect and put those hands down, pull those hand-me-down Flava Flav grills out of his mouth when he's talking to the champ. And since Shane keeps begging for a world title match, why wouldn't he just keep trying to get inside his head and have his goons jump people left and right to clear a path for the world title? So he asked him if he's the devil. Part of him hopes that he is. And if this is his house, Swerve's house, MJF is looking like the big bad wolf of pro wrestling, and he's going to blow his house down. And then he's going to break those arms, so he'll always swerve when he drives. But Swerve tells him if he keeps waving that title around, he's going to have to take it from him. And so the door opens. We see Brian Cage, the Gates of Agony, and Prince Nana standing there waiting. And that's when Samoa Joe rolls up to pull MJF out of harm's way. And Nana tells Strickland he forgot to talk to him about Collision last week. And that's when they go do business. So gang, I thought this was actually a really great backstage segment, bringing up the history between Swerve and MJF. MJF basically talking down to Swerve, calling him a little buddy. Hey, big man, just fantastic stuff all the way around, throwing the accusations around, the whole Gates of Agony waiting in the doorway, Joe rolling up, sort of late to the party. I know Joe went in a separate locker room, but, where was Joe? What was he doing in the locker room? You know what I mean? So a lot of sort of interesting things happening here. Ryan, what did you think about this backstage promo?
I think what's being said in the chat is exactly it. You have JPJ saying this was everything. Meet Normus saying backstage segment of the year. I fully agree with both those. We've been saying for a while now, Swerve's next big step is for the championship, and this is the beginning of that setup. You not only put him, you not only have him winning matches, but you put him face to face with MJF, and MJF and him having a very good back and forth, and MJF having to respect him. There is the interesting wrinkle that, well, no, I was going to say the interesting wrinkle is that, Brian Cage could be the big guy in the Devils thing, but the rest of the Mogul Embassy is too big to be the rest of those guys. So that doesn't kind of work. But I think the whole purpose of this is to establish that Swerve is the next big challenger for the title after Samoa Joe, whether it's MJF, whether it's Joe, because health things and all that. But I think they're very much trying to put into our brains that this is going to be Swerve's next opportunity, which it should be. And just the tension that these two managed to have. I don't know how actors, like, they're very good actors in this case, where you manage to feel real tension between these two as they're talking backstage. And I just loved that. And I liked that you didn't see the rest of the Mogul Embassy till the end. They let it be Swerve and MJF. Swerve didn't have his backup. He stood face to face with MJF. I was like, that was perfect. So I really enjoyed it.
And what's interesting too here is, as you said, Ryan, they're sort of establishing this connection to give Swerve sort of like a path to the title at some point. And in the build up to Keith Lee's match against Shane at Final Battle, Keith Lee kept saying, I have to get past him, and everybody thought it was Shane Taylor. But afterwards, he said Shane wasn't him. So I think we all know that it's going to be the payoff finally of Keith Lee and Swerve. So what's good about that, at the very least, Ryan, is we're making this connection now to Swerve and MJF for the title, but we still have Keith Lee in the way, so we have something for Swerve to do before the path opens up. Because MJF's dance card is very full right now. He's got Samoa Joe, he's got Wardlow, he's got the Devil, and then at some point we'll have Swerve. That's what I think we're going to get to, but Swerve's got to get through Keith Lee and that whole story. So I like the way they're weaving this all together.
Like I said, that's perfect, because you knew Swerve needed something to do. I don't think he's winning. I think he loses in the spoiler for the next whatever. He's going to lose in the triple threat. I think they gave him an out without taking a pin, which I think was genius. But okay, so what is he going to do in the meantime? A ready-made feud that people have been dying to see paid off. It's perfect. And then, all said and done, you have Swerve go for the title against either Joe and I think what's so great is I don't care who he goes against. It'll be awesome if it's MJF, and it'll be awesome if it's Samoa Joe. Like, that's how good all those three of them are. You put him against any of them, and he can. That story is going to be amazing.
Yeah, absolutely right. Joe, what do you think about the backstage segment and all this stuff we're obviously talking about with Swerve and Keith Lee? I mean, what's your thoughts on all this?
It was the moment of the night for me, the most memorable part of the show for me, at least. Like a lot of people have said, like, backstage segment of the year for AEW. This is, so great of how they can build out a storyline with just one little segment. I think, having him lose the Continental Classic and go into the feud with Keith Lee finally will be nice. I think we're a ways away from him challenging MJF, because as you laid out, we have all these other people wanting a shot at MJF first, but then we also have the storyline of MJF. Maybe he's going to disappear for a while in 2024, since that's his his bidding war, right? So does he disappear for a little bit and act like he's not going to be around? So that could cut into some of the first quarter of the year at least. But yeah, I think Swerve is the way they built up Swerve in his time at AEW. Just it's almost been perfection this last half a year.
Yeah, and And I think the catalyst, the kickstart, was really the story with Hangman, right? Like that story really pushed him up. And then if you don't get that performance out of him and Hangman in the Texas Death Match, I mean, that put him, he was already over. Like Swerve was already there, but that threw him into the next stratosphere. And, you know, it's funny because you look at what the feud with Hangman did for him. You know, I mean, it has and will continue to, because there's still unfinished business there, right? Hangman said, I'm not done with this. So they've sort of tabled that for the moment, and that's fine. But clearly they tabled Keith Lee for some time, and now they're coming back to it. You know, it's just funny that somebody who's been involved in two sort of big storylines over periods of time has been Hangman. Hangman's sort of been, you know, part of these stories that you continue to weave together. It's just funny to see one person appearing multiple times in these good sort of spots. And Val said it in our chat, you know, say what you will about AEW, no one holds a candle to their long-term storytelling. I'd have to agree. Their long-term stories are very good, and they generally have been. My only criticism is that there are points in time where I'm like, okay, it doesn't have to slow burn this long. Like, we can tell a long-term story, but we should maybe kick the burner up a little bit more to get this moving a little bit quicker. But either way, I can't disagree. For the most part, their major long-term stories do pay off in the end. You know, and again, see Hangman and Kenny Omega as probably their biggest long-term story to date. This one, though, with MJF and his reign of terror and the face turn and everything else, is going to be pretty close to that, if not surpass it at some point in time. So interesting stuff. We're going to move on to our next match. It was Commander versus Roderick Strong. Roddy wins by pinfall with an end of heartache gutbuster. And then post-match, Strong and the Kingdom are putting MJF is the devil signs up around ringside. And that's when the ravishing Renee Paquette comes into the ring. And Strong calls Samoa Joe out and says it's obvious now that Max is the devil, and tells him it's time to wake up and believe him. And that Samoa Joe is his best friend by proxy. So just fantastic. Also, again, in my homework for ROH Revelry that I'm taping tomorrow, it'll come out, I think, this weekend. Roddy Strong perhaps has some of the strongest entrance music in the history of wrestling. I mean, here the end of heartache is perfect. Oh, sorry, Val, it was the next Strong. My apologies. But Roddy Strong, the end of heartache right now. I will always love the time he came out to Misery Signals, A Victim, a Target, one of my favorite albums by that band and one of my favorite bands. So Roddy Strong just knows how to pick really good entrance music. But match was a lot of fun for me. And the post match also fun, continuing to stoke the flames and sort of throw, you know, different thoughts into everybody's brain, continuing the story. I thought was perfect. Joe, what'd you think here?
Well, first of all, Roger Strong always chooses very strong entrance music.
It's true.
And again, every week he comes out to wrestle. The man with, you know, recovering from his neck.
So
bravery, courage, a role model.
A faker.
Stop it.
Anyhow, I'm not going to pay attention to what Ryan said. This was an interesting combination of style with, you know, Roddy and Commander. With Roddy, even right, like, you know, the knee he gave Commander after Commander flips out of the corner. You know, wasting no time, just smacking him in the face, and then Roddy chopping the crap out of Commander. Roddy is the pinnacle of, you know, no flips, just fists and kicks and backbreakers. I did like Commander's little, like, tiger feint kick of Raj's legs when he was in the corner to get a little bit of offense in there. But, when you're that strong, you don't lose. And also going back to what you're talking about with the Kingdom and their signs of MJF as the devil, like, don't you have to think the Kingdom's involved with the Devils then if they're going to play off that hard?
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate the thought of the Kingdom being involved. I certainly don't. I also don't hate the thought of it being Roderick Strong as the devil. I mean, it all logically makes sense. But there are just so many names that, every name that comes up, you kind of step back and you're like, yeah, that does make sense. Like, it can be that person.
He does need a new neck brace. That one looks a little bit yellow and dingy now. I feel like
He doesn't need a new one because he's faking.
It's not true, Ryan. They get it off of him for his match, and then
You wouldn't be if you had a bad neck like that where you need a neck brace. You wouldn't be able to wrestle. So he's faking.
Yeah,
I don't know how you were all so blind to the obvious truth of his faking.
My best friend, not even by proxy, just my best friend, Jesse Ozog said it right. Ryan hates
No.
You hate necks.
I support neck health. So I don't like when frauds are out there taking away true sympathy and true needs from people who are suffering from neck injuries. He got out of the wheelchair, no problem. He gets out of the neck brace, no problem, but suddenly needs it back. So, what a faker.
Got to stay neck strong, Ryan.
Yeah, his neck is strong. That's why he doesn't need a neck brace.
Well, Ryan, what did you think about the match itself? Forget your
it was
revisionist.
a really good match between two guys with perfectly healthy necks. Roddy Strong is one of the best wrestlers in the world, so I'm glad he's allowed to wrestle. They've stopped using him just for his comedic gifts, which he clearly has. They've acknowledged that they brought in a great wrestler with a healthy neck and back, and so he can wrestle. And then I love the signs of MJF. That's just so funny. And once again, the man has a healthy neck.
Ryan. I do have a question for you guys about the signs. Now, maybe it's me just, I don't know, looking into it. It could have been completely wrong. I don't know. Did the text on the signs look like the text of the questions that we saw on the screen? Like, was it a similar style of handwriting, even though it's clearly a font? But was it supposed to look like a similar style of handwriting?
Do some handwriting analysis, some forensic science here.
If we have a forensic scientist who can be our handwriting expert, please contact us.
But I do have a question for you too.
Mm-hmm.
If his neck is so bad that he needs a neck brace all the time, except when he wrestles, isn't he neck weak?
No.
You're going to meet him for a while.
He's neck weak. Neck weak.
No, next week is Christmas and New Year's.
Neck. N-E-C-K, weak. He's not strong. He's weak. His neck needs support.
No, he's just keeping it healthy.
I think that would work against it.
Ryan.
I think if you wore a brace all the time when you didn't need it, it would work against your neck being healthy.
The blatant disrespect you show for Roderick Strong, a man who chooses great entrance music and is just so brave and courageous with everything he's been able to do, get out of the wheelchair under his own power, and then the courage to wrestle. Even though his neck is strong enough to wrestle, it can go at any time. I mean, it just boggles my mind, Ryan.
You know why it could go at any time? Because it's weak.
No. He keeps it strong. Using the neck.
He keeps it weak, so he needs the neck brace.
Ryan. Well, we do get a recap of Thunder Rosa making her reappearance on Collision. Commentary does hype up the show this weekend. We do get a Aquaman 2 preview with a bunch of talent. And then we come back from commercial where we have Jim Ross joining commentary for the main event. So Jim Ross is back on the call. He had been out, with some illness, so he's back. And we have Switchblade. That's right. I'm just doing it myself. Switchblade, Jay White versus Jon Moxley in our final Continental Classic Gold League match. Jay White with 9 points, Jon Moxley with 12. And again, if Mox wins or ties, then it is Mox versus Swerve next week in the final match. If Jay White wins, then it would be a 3-way match next week for the Gold League. And so getting to the end, because we'll have a lot to talk about, Jay White wins by pinfall with the Blade Runner to earn 3 points. So he has 12, and that ensures that we will get a 3-way Gold League block final next week. So commentary does hype up the remaining Blue League matches. That's when Swerve comes to the stage to do a little stare down. Moxley, throughout the match, had his sort of knee exploited. Jay White was working that over. And as Jay White is sort of needling Moxley to get up in the ring, Mox does eventually get up and Jay White lands a chop block to send a message. So maybe Mox isn't going to be 100% for his match next week. But that's the end of the show. We do know we're going to get a 3-way match in the Gold League block final next week on what I assume will be the New Year's Smash edition of Dynamite. So,
or like New Year's Smashed.
Oh boy. Ryan, what'd you think of the match?
Well, we saw that, Switchblade was in distress, so he had to beat Mox to get out of that mess. But I enjoyed going for the knee. It adds intrigue to the triple threat. It gives a reason for Mox to lose that keeps him looking strong. But Switchblade has been completely rebuilt since his loss to MJF. Beating Mox is a big deal in AEW. Like, that's a very big deal. So, and it was clean. No matter what you say, it was a clean win. So I thought it was huge. And like I said earlier, I think it gives a way for, I hate to say it, I think Switchblade takes the pin now in the next match in the triple threat by Moxley. And I think Moxley moves on. And it gives a way for Swerve to get out of the tournament without having lost a second time. And it enables, or Switchblade could win and pin Mox. I don't care. I just think Swerve loses so he could get out to go after the Keith Lee in the title. But the match was amazing. Switchblade, I'm going to say something weird. I don't know how to say this. Juice Robinson was everything great in wrestling. He really was so much fun. The only thing that has come out of him not being around, though, is they've really solely focused on Jay White's wrestling. And they've given him some serious promos that usually you only see online, but some serious promos online and his wrestling. And I think it's maybe even reminded them a little bit, like, Jay White is exceptionally good at this. Let the man do what he does best. Now, hopefully what that means is when Juice comes back is you could still have Juice's silliness, but you let Jay be Jay in terms of wrestling.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And it was another thing they continued to harp on sort of this week. Joe, the commentary did continue to harp on the fact that Jay White has the experience here, right? He's been in these types of tournaments, and he knows how to, expend his energy correctly and keep something in the tank and sort of remain as healthy as possible. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do with it next week. But what did you think of the match with Moxley?
The match was great. To follow up what you said there, I think it goes to the point of like what I said earlier about Jay White being the healthiest, probably one of the healthiest of the final people, and I think you saw that in the way he attacked the match tonight with Mox, where Mox is just a bull in a china shop, like reckless abandon, just wants to try to get over with, choke you out, stomp you out. While Jay was doing much more methodical, like, strike a little bit, go to the outside, run around for a little bit, strike a little bit until he had an opening. So I think it really shows, just the ring savvy and smarts that Jay White has, where he might not be the strongest guy or the toughest guy, but he can still beat you. And that's what makes him a big threat. I did like the fact that, when Ryan was talking about Juice Robinson being the funny guy in the Bullet Club, but we got to still see Jay's personality even at the end where Swerve comes out and, Jay's out there mocking him, doing the Nana dance. And, I enjoyed that, seeing that kind of, sarcastic humor from him.
Yeah, it's been good to see a more serious Jay, but he's still that cocky, arrogant professional wrestler, right? He's going to needle you and he's going to pull you into some of his mind game traps, right? And it's going to be interesting to see what they do next week, because you can make a case for everybody in the gold block final to win this match. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do. So I guess early prediction, Ryan, you think Mox is moving on. I think you've sort of put that out there. Joe, go ahead, Ryan. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think it's definitely, all I can say for sure, it's definitely not, well, watch me, I'm going to get proven wrong now, but all I would say is that I feel 100% confident about is it's not Swerve, because they don't want Swerve having that belt, and they built this to give him an out without a loss. So,
okay, Joe, who do you think's going to win the gold block?
Mox.
It's going to be Mox. Yep. I feel like I'm there too, but I wouldn't be surprised if somehow Switchblade comes out of this on top. Just finds a way to eke out a win.
There's more story with Mox based on whoever comes out on the other side.
I mean, there is, but there is something fun about. Well, not fun. There is something really good to think about when you have the possibility of getting Danielson, Jay White, for a final. I mean, that's not a bad thought to me either. Could also be Danielson Moxley, and that can also lead to some sort of story as like, who is the true sort of quote unquote leader or top guy in the Blackpool Combat Club, right? Maybe that drives a wedge between the group. I'm not saying they're breaking them up, but could add some interesting flair to that story. So,
this is my pick as well. I agree with 1LT photo.
1LT is saying Mox versus Eddie in the final.
Yeah, that would make sense.
There is the possibility too, with the way that the Blue League shakes out, that there is like a 4-way tie. You know what I mean? Like there is the capability for that to happen.
I just want to say this one thing, because Val's saying she doesn't know because of how much they see in Swerve. It's actually because of how much they see in Swerve that I don't have him winning this. I think they see Swerve as the AEW champion in the next however many months. And that if he wins the tournament, then you have him have 2 belts. You're going to have to get the Continental off of him to get to the 8. So I think it makes it more complicated. You've given yourself an easy out. He can claim whatever, and he can move on to the AEW championship, because I think that's what they see in him more than anything.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see how they play off the gold block finals. We still have the blue, league matches to determine the blue block finals. So that'll happen on Saturday night at Collision. But let's move on. Before we wrap things up here, let's move on to some news and notes over the last week. There were a number of stories that came out over the week, but some of the highlight ones were everybody's talking about Warner Brothers Discovery and the possibility of getting the Monday Night Raw signing with them, and then you have AEW. Nobody's talking about they actually did book a new wrestling show for 2024. Were you guys aware of this? Joe's aware. Ryan, they did land another 2024 wrestling show on Warner Brothers Discovery. They did announce that Big Little Brawlers is coming to the Discovery Network. It is a 6-episode series that debuts on Tuesday, January 9th. There is a trailer out there for you to see, and it's set in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. It follows athletes in the Micro Wrestling Federation, one of the most successful little person wrestling leagues in the world. Pinky, Shortcake, and Psycho, parents and wrestling partners, must navigate their relationship both in and out of the ring. The voice of micro wrestling, Ivar the Micro, dreams of going from hype man to wrestler despite significant physical risk. Popular veteran Lil Show wrestles to support his wife and children, but fears his best moments in the ring are behind him. And the up-and-coming wrestler Hot Rod must prove his talent lives up to his ego. Despite internal dramas and frustrations, Micro Wrestling Federation CEO Jack Darrell Hillgrass encourages the group to work together as a family as they approach Microfest, the biggest micro wrestling event of the year. So there will be more wrestling on Warner Brothers Discovery. Looks like Discovery Network is getting into it. And guys, I don't know about you, I'm looking forward to some corporate synergy with the Micro Wrestling League.
Good for them. I mean, I just stuff like that always makes me nervous on how it's going to be presented.
I mean, what was the other show they have? Little People. They had Little People, Big World.
Yeah, like again, it's not that good for the wrestlers. You just always get nervous, like, what are you going to be putting out there?
No, I know. It seems like a weird one, but looks like Warner Brothers Discovery is still doubling down on wrestling content. They think it's super important. So Micro Wrestling League or Micro Wrestling Federation. So we'll see. Guys, I'm sure you saw everybody talking about Tony Khan and Disco Inferno. That's been news. No, maybe not. Well, in the post-show press conference following Final Battle, Tony Khan said that to be AEW is to be under constant attack, and at this point, I don't worry about it. But he does clearly still take criticism to heart because he went to social media asking how fans were feeling after Collision on December 16th. And that's when former WCW star Disco Inferno saw it as an opportunity to give his 2 cents to reply on X, saying, like, the show needs a reset. Tony Khan didn't really take kindly to that. He went straight to the heart and he said, the belief that you're an irrelevant parasite unites the entire pro wrestling community. He does not think highly of Disco, and Disco did thank Tony Khan. He said, if I am irrelevant, how do I unite the wrestling community? And if the wrestling community is united by someone who's irrelevant, what does that say about the wrestling community? Love to hear the answers. So, Disco Inferno. It's 2023, Ryan, and we're talking about Disco Inferno. Does that excite you? You're a WCW guy. You had to love Disco Inferno.
Disco Inferno. He's just an asshole.
Come on. You don't love Disco Inferno?
No, he's an asshole. I don't have patience for people like that.
Oh, boy. Well, keep an eye out there. TK Unhinged on X is so funny.
Oh, yeah.
Good news about Bandito, gentlemen. He'd been out of action, we know, since breaking his wrist in June. He suffered a setback after the first surgery, which required a corrective surgery. And on December 16th, he did give an update. He said that the second surgery was successful. In first place, I want to say thank you to God for always keep with me. I'm reading this exactly, by the way. To AEW workers and fans who always support me, and in a very special mention, Tony Khan, for all the attentions that he've had to me and my family. Thank you very, very much. So looks like Bandito should be back on his way. Hopefully there's no further setbacks because he's freaking awesome. And I think he is sometimes missed with the other luchadors. So good for Bandito. Kate mentioned it before, but Tony Khan did introduce a new Ring of Honor TV championship. This may be a little bit of a spoiler, but it's all over, and we don't normally talk Ring of Honor here. So on Saturday night, December 16th in Texas, they did a taping. In the midst of the matches being filmed for Honor Club, Tony Khan did introduce a new championship, the Ring of Honor Women's Television title. There's no details on how that championship, or there's no details on how that will be sort of, awarded. But there are certainly a number of contenders for it. Billy Starks, you would think, should get a shot because of her match with Athena. But we sort of talked about it in passing before. Women's championship for Ring of Honor, TV championship. Is that a good idea to you guys?
I would have preferred the tags, like Kate said, but yes, they have actually a really strong women's division in Ring of Honor. There's a lot of good talent there. I'm kind of, my head wants to go to Layla Hirsch to have it. But honestly, they have so many options. So yeah, I think they could use it because their women's division down in ROH is strong. It's been booked really well and it's really strong.
And it just hopefully will give more time to female wrestling on Ring of Honor, right? Maybe you'll guarantee 2 matches on Ring of Honor TV week.
It's actually not as the problem. It's kind of funny. Not to, like they always say, like Tony at one point, I think, I don't know if it was Tony or someone said it was like a network issue. And I think Ring of Honor in kind of some ways has kind of proven it a little bit because he will book the hell out of women. Now the difference is, like you going to your point, is maybe to let him build stories for more of these women. Though, I'm just excited. Like I said, Ring of Honor. Ring of Honor is weird. In the places AEW struggles, Ring of Honor is excelling great. And in the places AEW nails it, Ring of Honor's not doing well. It's like a total flip.
Yeah. So it is exciting to have a new title. I just hope that they have a good way of awarding this title and that it's not just a battle royal or something stupid. But yeah, I'm hoping to see some good come out of this title. We talked about Kenny Omega and his injury. So we said it on the 15th. Kenny Omega shared he'd been hospitalized with diverticulitis and out indefinitely. So the reports that followed said that Omega had gone to the hospital after feeling ill for more than a week. That's a stretch of time that included a match against Ethan Page for Collision that was taped on December 5th and that promo segment on the 13th. But on the Sunday, December 17th episode of Wrestling Observer Radio, Meltzer had given some more background on Omega's situation. He said, "I did not hear if he had surgery yet, but he was rushed to the hospital Friday. He had been in a lot of pain, and he thought what happened was, you probably all remember, is that he had a hernia that was really, really bad, which caused him long period off. He'd been hurting really, really bad, and he had presumed it was a hernia. He had been bloating, which he thought may have messed up. He may have messed up on his diet and eaten something wrong, but he just kept training, working, and did the match with Ethan Page. He was hurting really bad on Wednesday when he did the promo with Jericho. By that point, it was so bad, he went to the hospital and found out he had diverticulitis. It was a bad situation. It was a really bad situation in the sense of he had not gone. If he had not gone in another day or so, it could have been horrendous. And again, I don't know too much about diverticulitis, but I'm pretty sure it's one of those things almost like appendicitis, where if something ruptures, it then becomes sort of a ticking clock. Like you can poison yourself and die. This Kenny Omega stuff really sucks, but glad that it got caught, because it could have been much, much, much worse. So no need to rehash anything more there, just covering off on the points we talked about before. And gang, I mentioned before, we do know for sure that the Devil is not one free agent who is now off the market. Sami Callihan is now signed to MLW. He was a full-time member of MLW from 2017 to 2019. He departed on not the best of terms. He lost a loser leaves MLW match to Mance Warner. The plan was for a masked return later that summer, but ties were cut after Callihan had racked up some bills and damages to a venue. And then Callihan made a surprise appearance at Battle Riot 4 last year. So now we know that is his new landing spot. It will be at MLW. His first appearance back will be versus Satoshi Kojima for Kings of Colosseum on January 6th in Philadelphia. It will be part of the TV taping. So we know for sure, guys, it's not Sami Callihan, which I think is a good thing because we all were not really loving the idea that it could be Sami Callihan. So Callihan to MLW, and the world continues to turn with who is the Devil? You know what it reminds me of? Who is Eric Cartman's father?
It's the 1980. Was it 5 Broncos?
I think so. 1980. Ooh.
I don't remember the year. I know it was the Denver Broncos. I don't remember the year.
Ryan.
And then it ended up being his mom.
Ryan, one of my favorite signs ever was on WCW television. And it simply said, during that time period, Hogan is Cartman's father. One of my favorite signs ever. All right, gang. Last few things here. MJF is still insisting that he does not have a long-term deal with AEW. The whole story is the bidding war of 2024. Everybody seems to think that he's not signed. People in the WWE are saying, no, there's no talks about him being a free agent or anything like that. But he was Jimmy Traina's guest on the latest Sports Illustrated Media podcast. And he was asked about his deal. MJF said, "I've been saying the same thing. I never lied. January 1st, 2024. When stuff like that gets leaked out, it makes me laugh because I remember something leaked out about Cody having secretly re-signed, and then he showed up in WWE. Something got leaked out about, CM Punk and Tony Khan, or, I think fans leak out things that they want to be true. I love AEW. I want to stay in AEW. After this pay-per-view, December 30th's World End, it's time to assess the situation for a professional setting." Traina did want to clarify if Friedman was had signed a new AEW deal, and the champ said, "Not yet." But he does acknowledge his current home is probably best fit for him right now. He said, "I just don't know how the fuck you put a leash on me, and I swear to God, that's my honest opinion. I think my career trajectory is in any company is going to be exactly the same. Do I think in some aspects AEW fits me? AEW fits me like a glove more than anywhere else? Yeah, I do. Could an argument be made the other way around? Yeah, I'm sure. These are all things I have to think about. What I do know, whatever company I pick, it will be because it feels right and it means the most to me." And he also said, "I feel the company right now. There was a minute there I felt like we were kind of in this rebuild phase, and I feel like right now we're really building some serious momentum. There are fans online that say restore the feeling, and I dig that line, and I'm pumped because I feel like we are, and we have, and we're continuing to do so, and I'm proud to be at the helm of that." Guys, nobody here, I'm not buying that whatsoever.
No. No, no,
whatsoever. But if this is what they continue to push the kayfabe on, and him just continuing that as of January 1st, he's not on television because there's a bidding war for him, I am all for it to see where that goes, because he's insufferable when talking about the bidding war of 2024. I'm a little upset we haven't continued to hear about it. In more injury news, CJ Perry had a deadly infection that required surgery. Not sure if you guys saw this. She started talking about, what started it. She missed 2 appearances due to the infection. And she said underwent surgery earlier the week after she'd been in the hospital for more than 50 hours. So on December 19th, she said it started with a splinter she got backstage at Dynamite. She said, I've been in the hospital since Saturday fighting a fatal infection that came from getting a small splinter backstage at work this past Wednesday. Please keep me in your prayers, and everyone really take care of any cuts you get. As small as a splinter can turn into a deadly infection. Love all you guys, and thank you to everyone who has reached out. The infection, some are saying, is like, obviously it wasn't fatal, but based on the way that, she's doing things now, it seems like she's on some strong meds. She's on some strong meds and on her way back. But she missed a couple appearances, went to the hospital, and she's on her way back. So good luck to CJ Perry. And guys, in some news we got tonight on Dynamite, MJF is adding another big moment to his resume. He was inducted into the National Jewish Sports Hall of Fame in Commack, New York. He said, I've been a top name in this industry since I was 21. I've accomplished more than I can remember at this point, championships, accolades, awards, but this might be the most important one outside of being your AEW World Champion. My great uncle Benny Friedman is in the NJSHF, and I'm very glad and humbled I get to be standing beside him and all the other incredible Jewish athletes in history. He did speak to Newsday about it. There is a video clip out there, but he said everybody in this in the Hall of Fame, everyone on the wall had to fight discrimination and anti-Semitism, because just being an athlete and a Jew is really not supposed to be in the same sentence. I love Long Island more than anything. I love being Jewish more than anything, and I love being able to be a role model for young Jewish kids. He did go on just to say on social, I can't put into words what today meant to me. With the rampant discrimination and bigotry seen worldwide, I proudly say I'm not just a Jew, I'm a human. We should all treat each other as such, except me. I deserve special treatment because I'm a Hall of Fame level human. So it's a good one for MJF, another great moment. But guys, I just keep thinking that all of this stuff, like all of this feel-good story stuff, is going to be fucking fantastic when he shit heel turns hard at some point and just goes back to not giving a shit. Because the video package they showed tonight where he's like smiling with kids and tussling their hair and like, signing things for people, it's all going to be fantastic when none of that happens anymore. And he's just like, fuck this, fuck you, I hate this. And he's sitting back at a table eating yogurt for people who are paying for pictures. And then he just flips off the camera. I can't wait for that heel turn to come back.
It's coming.
It is coming. But honestly, gang, that's all I got. A lot of stuff going on. In the world of AEW and in the world of the Mark Order podcast. I think we said it last week. We're planning a lot of stuff for 2024 as we're wrapping up 2023. Joe and Ryan are going to be starting a show where they're going to be doing Collision watch-alongs. We don't have a formal title for it yet. We're workshopping stuff, but we've got some ideas to make that fun. Watch-along, almost like the Manning cast, except you're not going to be able to see what we're watching. We're not quite on that level yet.
You have a big forehead, I think. I feel like I do have a big head.
Oh, wow. I'm looking at both you guys now. Ryan's camera zoomed all the way in on it.
I'm trying to make mine bigger.
Just shave your head.
No.
I'm getting my head shaved tomorrow. So we're going to start that in 2024, gang. Gordon Post is asking, when is that going to start? We're starting up in 2024. So stay tuned. We will, obviously put things on social and all that kind of jazz, but it's starting, at the top of 2024. So we're getting right underway with new content. We've got a lot of other things that we're working on for additional content and sort of shows and things that are part of wrestling world, things are outside of the wrestling world, pulling some other people into the mix, and doing that kind of stuff. So stay tuned. We've got a lot of stuff planned, and your support really means a lot to us. But beyond that, we've also got our own stuff to plug. So Joe, what do you got to plug?
Sure. You can find me on social media at _Asian Joe. And in my bios and my link, there's a link to my cereal review blog. So check it out if you want to read about some fun, sugar-filled novelty cereal.
You should certainly check it out because who doesn't love cereal? I mean, seriously. And Joe, I'm sure I've asked this before, but you're a milk in cereal guy, right? You're not. I mean, I like eating cereal plain, but I am not the type of person who's like, I'm going to pour myself a bowl of cereal for breakfast and eat it dry.
Right. I mean, snackability, eating the cereal dry is important to me. But yes, if I'm eating a bowl of cereal in the morning, I'm adding milk to it.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
And milk goes in second after I pour the cereal.
Oh, of course. What are we, savages? Who pours the milk and then puts the cereal on top of the milk? Probably Ryan.
No.
Well, Ryan, what do you
got? The amount of cereal I get in a bowl.
Well, that's true. Ryan, what do you got to plug?
Follow me on all our socials at MarkOrderPod, and then follow my history blog at Here for History. It's not a revisionist history, unlike Joe's revisionist serial blog, thanks 1LT Photo. So yeah, hereforhistory.com.
That seems like a revisionist statement. I'm just going to say it.
I feel like the revisionist serial thing was a hybrid of my serial blog and Ryan's history blog.
Do you guys
I would point out that revisionism is an actual field of history. Just going to point that out.
Do you guys think there's a room to collaborate, get some corporate blog synergy where you do a historic serial post?
I mean, there's definitely history to cereal that's kind of interesting. What was it, Kellogg, who thought that if cereal had sugar and flavor, it would lead to masturbation and other sinful things. So he wanted it to be plain. I believe that's what he thought. But it, Joe's trying the more unique ones. So I don't know if those will have as much crossover, but there's always crossover.
It would be ironic that the Kellogg Flake guy was like that, and yet we have frosted flakes. I mean, just saying.
I think there's room for you guys to collaborate here, and I will take a 25% of the share for the idea. Why do you think they call me AntMoney? These ideas aren't free. Just saying. Well, for me, if you'd like to follow me on my personal channels, at AntMoney on X, at AntMoney247 on Instagram. Follow us though. Follow the podcast at MarkOrderPod on X, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. Those are also things we're working on for 2024 to get more content, not just weekly posts of what the match cards are, but putting up more content, some more reels and clips, and also getting some conversations going in different places. So make sure you're following us, and we're also going to keep you aware of some of the new things we have coming up in those channels. So make sure you give us a follow. More importantly, we can now say it since nobody will dispute it. Follow us on YouTube. We have a whole bunch of people who are watching along with us live tonight. I'm sure they're subscribed on YouTube. If you're not, just hit that subscribe button. You're there. We're trying to get to 500. That's our benchmark we need to hit. We know we're still a ways away from that, but we definitely think it's important to subscribe because we're giving away Win a Date with Kate at number 500. She can't dispute it, so that means it's going to happen. Win a Date with Kate if you're number 500. So subscribe and stay tuned for that.
Well, now if you're number 500, Win a Date, we'll take a random drawing.
Yes.
We'll figure something out. Because that'll make people wait. So don't wait till you're. But once we hit 500, we'll do a drawing. You'll send in proof you're subscribed, and then you'll get a date with Kate.
Listen, we got to work out how we're going to do it, but we need to get to 500 people first, and then you get to win your date. All expenses paid. So, that's right. And the Mark Order podcast can only assure that a date will happen. Whatever happens after the date is up to Kate. So, we don't condone anything outside of the date. So beyond that, if you're listening in podcast form, we thank you for listening in podcast form. Please make sure you're subscribed to us on any of your podcast channels. That does help us in the algorithms to show up along with all the other wrestling content out there. Although we know we're the A show when it comes to anything AEW, so we don't have to worry. Definitely check us out though if you're listening in podcast form on YouTube. All of the videos live on there, especially to go back and see tonight's rap performance from Ryan that we judged, American Idol style.
Too harshly.
So Ryan, next week we're gonna run it back, right?
I don't know. Do we want to kill the gimmick?
It's the last time you'll get to.
Oh, that's true. You're right. All right, I'll figure something out for next week. I don't know what it'll be yet, but I'll figure something out.
That's fine. You've tried one. Now try something else. And we're going to set up a layout so that we can do this like a true judging panel. So, we'll do that again next week, but you should definitely check out the video because Ryan had on his outfit. Santa made an appearance. It's a lot of fun. So check us out in video format if you never had. And if you would like to support us with some of your hard-earned dollars, because we know how hard-earned dollars are these days, head on over to our Pro Wrestling Tee store to pick up a t-shirt. You can find a link directly to that in our link trees, in our social bios, or you can go to prowrestlingtees.com/markorderpod or search the Mark Order Podcast on Pro Wrestling Tees, and our store will pop right up for you. We've got 4 t-shirts for you to buy, 2 front prints, 2 front and back prints. I think it's too late to order it for the holidays, but you know what? If maybe you forgot about a gift for somebody, order one now. Order a Mark Order Podcast shirt for them and then give it to them after Christmas. Hey, I forgot this gift at home. Like, here you go. Or, oh, you know what? Everybody gets gifts for Christmas that suck. Here's a great gift that you'll love after Christmas. It's a Mark Order Podcast t-shirt. They probably don't even know what we are. Who cares? Let them do it. Let them have the shirt.
It looks cool.
It looks awesome. So thank you to everybody who's already purchased a shirt. We thank you for your support. And thank you to everybody who in the future will purchase a shirt. Money you spend there does come back to us because we do have things we have to pay for to put this show on. Believe it or not, we do have a few things we got to pay for. So, but that's it this week, guys. Ryan, your bravery, much like Roderick Strong, your bravery in wrapping the standings for the Continental Classic is appreciated. We will see what you have next week. So don't forget that, people. If you're listening, tune back in next week because Ryan is going to try this. It'll be the last time we get to try it until they start doing something else where we're going to have rankings. So come back next week. We will have one more show in 2023. And then, we'll see what happens leading into World's End, the Continental Classic finals, and all that kind of stuff. Kate said it before. to you guys, but I also want to say I hope you guys enjoy your holiday. It's a lot of fun to be able to do this with you guys every week, and I hope you enjoy the long weekend and any time off that you guys get to take. And we will, I look forward to chatting with you about how the holiday was next week. So thank you, gentlemen.
Happy holidays.
And
Merry
everybody
Christmas,
out
Happy
there
New Year,
too.
every holiday.
You said some of the names before too, Ryan. I didn't mean to cut you off. The Jesse Ozogs. Thanks, friend. You're very appreciated too. I hope you have a happy holiday. 1LT Photo, who was hanging out all night. Gordon Post. Val. I said 1LT Photo. Pro Wrestling Podcast checked in. Slonomite was in here. Maybe. I know SJ was. Kyle K. Sparks early on. So thank you everybody for checking us out. We appreciate it. We hope you all have a wonderful holiday. Jesse Ozog says, for real, fuck COVID. Can't agree more with that. So we look forward to chatting with you next week. Enjoy the holiday, guys. And we will be back to discuss everything All Elite Wrestling here next week on the Mark Order Podcast, the final episode of 2023.
This concludes the Mark Order Podcast. We now return you to your regularly scheduled programming. Join the Mark Order.